Hey guys, Pete here, and I got a full lineup with me, and I'm pretty excited because this is if you were following the channel during Better Call Saul, this is kind of a return of the getting the gang back together. As I have Gil and Courtney here, and also Bankole, you're not covering the show on Popcorn for Dinner. You're a part of Popcorn for Dinner.
I
And
am, yeah.
so when I went on there, we didn't get to talk about it yet. Like we talk about TV a lot, privately. And so I'm always glad to have you on, but it's kind of fun for me too, because you're the new member here. And also I haven't really talked about the show with you. Hey, Gil.
I hit the wrong button. I didn't know I had the power to do that, but now I know that. It's going to make me dangerous tonight.
I didn't know you had the power to do that either. I'm surprised, but it's pretty cool. You can anybody can, I guess, maybe just sort of take over at any time. So let's get into it because there's a lot to talk about with this episode. Let's go around the horn. Everyone can introduce themselves and give us the general thoughts about this episode now that you had some time to think about it, and also just the premise, since this is the first time everybody's been on. So go ahead, Gil, why don't you start it out?
Sure. Yeah, I'll say I am head over heels for this show. It almost feels like the best of both worlds because I want more Better Call Saul, but that is a complete story. I feel like in terms of stories that have conclusions, like that is the most concluded story. The whole Breaking Bad universe, I feel very satisfied with it. But now you have Vince Gilligan back, and you said getting the gang back together. They kind of did that too. A lot of the same people behind the scenes are involved. So I almost feel like I'm getting more Better Call Saul, but an entirely different premise, if that makes sense, in an entirely different genre. So I am just the premise alone. It's one of those things where it's a hook that gets you thinking immediately. The idea of the world coming together into a hive mind. We've seen things like it. You can make comparisons to Invasion of the Body Snatchers, for example, but we've never seen anything quite like it. It's the kind of premise that gets you curious, even before you see the show, you start thinking about it, but then it's filtered through the quality of a Vince Gilligan series where, premise aside, just the characters alone, I'm fascinated by them. So I'm loving the show. I am so excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. All right. Who wants to go next?
I can go next as the newcomer to the group. So I'm Bankole, Popcorn for Dinner podcast on all platforms and YouTube. I was here for Severance. That was fun. And in terms of Pluribus, you're right. Obviously, we are covering Pluribus on the podcast. Ibube and Chris, who was here last week, are doing a fantastic job. I was meant to be on that, but then life sometimes just gets in the way. So I haven't actually got to speak about the show publicly, which I'm very excited to do. I was able to stay away from most things about the show pre-release. Like obviously doing what we do and with the way Twitter is now, you kind of always know things. But I didn't watch I think I watched 10 seconds of the trailer and I was like, okay, I know that's enough. I'm just gonna go. I watched maybe 2 or 3 teasers. So I was as blind as you could be, as someone like us could be going in. So I was very excited about that. I'm really digging the show. For reasons that I'll talk about later, but also it just feels like, especially with the run times, it feels just like TV of 8 years ago. This episode is 40 minutes. So we're not here for an hour. It's just, I'm just really enjoying the show. It's weird how much it feels like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul without obviously being in that genre at all. It just, because of the directing and I guess the writers, but it feels very much like being back in that world, just in a different part of the world. So I'm really enjoying the show. I can't wait to talk about it. But yeah, Popcorn for Dinner on all platforms. We're covering this show. We'll be covering Seven Kingdoms in January. We'll probably be covering Industry, which is kind of we love the show. It's our marquee show. We've covered it for 2 seasons. We really love Industry. So we'll be covering that again when it comes back next year. And then, yeah, we have a fun idea that we're doing all throughout next year, which we're announcing in a couple of weeks. So it's going to be quite busy on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm going to grab up some links too. Because of my crash right beforehand, all my windows were closed except for the bare bones, but I'll post some links here to everybody's stuff in a second. But so Courtney, why don't you tell everybody who doesn't know who you are?
What's up, guys? My name is Courtney. I have a YouTube channel that's been dormant since Better Call Saul. I haven't posted anything, but it's Courtney's Reviews. And so far on that channel, all I've ever covered is Better Call Saul. Some of you may know me as Pete's co-host from the podcast Growth, Decay, Transformation, where we did a Breaking Bad rewatch and covered that. That was a lot of fun. So like Gil, like Bankole, I'm really excited to be back in the Gilligan universe. It is really interesting to see this genre through Gilligan's sort of like Black sense of humor, which I just adore. So I'm loving it so much. It's taking like every sci-fi trope and sort of turning it on its head, like the apocalyptic story. And something that really stood out to me in this episode was the sort of Asimovian paradox. I feel like this particular episode really highlights and I think speaks to the series so far, some of the more narrative philosophy. At least that's kind of what I'm picking up on, and we might get into that a little bit more later. But so far, really loving it, loving all the questions that it raises, and that there isn't a clear answer, like what's good, what's bad, and it's really up to us to decide, which I always enjoy a show that invites that kind of debate and discussion. I don't know if you guys have seen in comment sections the sort of raging debate about, are you team Hive, are you team Carol, like what's right, what's wrong, but I really enjoy those discussions and thinking about it. So thanks for having me on, Pete. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. And I agree with you 100%. The questions are what are really, like this episode, I guess, when I watched it the first time, I felt a little let down. Not that it's really hard to explain, because I liked the cold open. I liked how deliberate that was, and I liked the idea that there's a different character. I liked watching Ray Seahorn all hopped up by herself, doing the truth serum video. I thought some of that stuff was hilarious, but as it was building momentum, it felt like it stopped. Like that was just sort of my initial feeling. But whenever I went back and I started to do my video and I started to take notes and start to think about it, man, there's just so many things that pop up. So it's really great that you guys are willing to come on here and talk to me about it, because I always have so many more things that pop in my head as soon as I'm finished with that. And that's really, I think, the strength of this series right now, is that it is like there's just so many just simple things that, you kind of take for granted in a story that are just like heightened, I think is the way I would describe it. And I think that we should start off with the new character. He's kind of he's isolated. He's also a bit isolated from the rest of the story. So I think that everything else is maybe a little more connected. And I know that Courtney, you have to step out. You're not going to be able to stay too long. And Bankole, you said the same thing. So I want to kind of try to move through everything, because I think I really want to get to talking about Carol and talking about Zosha and the hive mind and where things were left. But we can't overlook Manusos, because this is a pretty good introduction. So what was your, I guess collectively you can all chime in. Did you see this as a good setup for him to be an ally for Carol, or do you think that he's more in the category of like someone who's going to create some chaos in season one and kind of maybe make Carol useful for the hive again, because she's on the outside? Like where do you think this is heading as far as where this character is going to fit into things once he gets brought into the fold?
Oh, I see him as a potential ally for sure. Because it starts off, he's scanning his ham radio And I'm assuming he's looking for a signal for other uninfected people. At least that's the way I interpreted what he's doing. And the fact that he's listening for other people, right? He's looking for contact. I think getting to see the other side of the conversation in this episode really lets us get a sense of what he's thinking and his own sense of stubbornness, right? And not wanting to cooperate with the hive, so to speak. So when Carol tells him off, I think that's the tip off for sure. He knows he's no longer alone.
Mm-hmm. At that moment, the score gets more hopeful. So I think at the very least, the show wants us to believe that there's a potential alliance there. And if it goes a different way, I think that'll be a sort of twisty direction. Not to say it can't go that way, but it's not something I'd actually considered, Pete, until you asked the question, because it feels on the surface like they have so much in common. He's almost more Carol than Carol. He's doing an even better job of saying no.
Yeah.
And being very stubborn, almost to the point of like cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Misery loves company, right? Like, there's no reason why these two people should not be together. Like, they are both equally angry at the hive. They both want the same thing. Can I just say that, like, I would very easily fold when it comes to this food. Like, Carol, fair enough, you can go to your Sprouts.
That's a question that I wanted to ask everyone, like, because I think that's a line people draw in different places for sure.
I just, like, with Carol, I might have already folded. They're giving you the best meal you've ever made, but at least you can cook for yourself. He's resorting to eating like what the flies are looking. I can't. That would be my breaking point. I would just like, okay, just give me the food. Like,
I love there's a moment of like anguish on his face when he looks at the fresh food they delivered before he kind of like tips it over and walks away. I found that is a great example, Courtney, of some of the dark humor in the show.
Yeah. I'm very surprised. Well, not surprised. I guess it's just been a week, but like, I would have caved very much earlier, because you know that they're bringing him the best meals he's ever had. He's starving.
Yeah, exactly what he wants. Yeah.
I don't. But I do think he has to. Like, right now, everything is placed for him to be an ally. It would take something quite drastic, I think, for like them to be on opposing sides.
Yeah, I could see them disagreeing on maybe the approach. Like maybe one wants to be more clandestine about fighting against the hive. One wants to be more aggressive, even if they have a shared goal. There could be some kind of division there, but it would be hard for me to imagine them differing, at least on the core goal of we want to. I mean, Carol seems pretty set on saving the world. For all we know, this guy's going to be more about just how do we survive, and he's less interested.
Maybe he doesn't think they're human anymore. Maybe, for example,
right? And like if it comes to a point where we can maybe save some people, but it would involve risking ourselves, maybe there'll be a disagreement there where my priority is saving the world versus my priority is saving ourselves.
But at the same time, he writes the notes for the
That's
guests.
true.
So like he's not entirely like the customer. Sorry, he's not entirely.
Yeah, he seems to be like someone who has it. He values following the rules, if nothing else. Maybe that's like, I mean, because that was a pretty pointed thing to add. To have him write the note where no one's really going to see it. They did that for a reason, and I guess that's what I took away from it, was that he's kind of he feels like the rules still matter or something along those lines.
And I also took it to mean there's hope that he thinks things could turn around. Otherwise, why bother leaving that note?
That's not what I was thinking, but you're right. It's definitely something that could be true.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Gil. I think it's a really salient point. And also, we still don't really know a lot of his backstory, just from what Zoja has told us, that he's been difficult to communicate with and really resistant. So we don't even know how much he knows of what's going on, because at least, Carol got Davis Taffler, the Undersecretary of Agriculture, to come on and explain what was going on.
Yeah, he told her, Zosha said directly that he hasn't communicated with us, so he doesn't know for sure. And
we don't know what people he may have lost during the joining, like if he had family, significant others, customers. We just don't know.
That's confusing to me a little bit, because the whole 33 hours no contact, like you would think if his family was absorbed into the hive, then they would know he exists and they would go to find him. But I'm not 100% sure that's the point they're making there. One of the things you did say is, Courtney, that is a question I wanted to ask you guys. Because you said he's listening for other people, and that's the way I interpreted that too. Does anybody here have any experience with ham radios? Because I've always heard of what a ham radio was and sort of know like generally what it does, but I've never known anybody that was like into it or had, used one.
No, The Last of Us and The Walking Dead maybe are like my only sources of knowledge on this.
Other than my brother today told me that he apparently always saw himself one day becoming a ham radio guy, which I never knew, but I don't think he ever did. So nothing really useful to add.
Okay.
You have to be licensed to do it,
Yes.
I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that when I looked it up. Mm-hmm.
So just quickly before, I know we have to move on from Manusas, but like on the 33 hours thing, because he doesn't seem like, Pete, I think you made this point in your video. He's not a doomsday prepper. He's not.
No, he's not prepared.
He's not Nico man in The Last of Us. So like, which kind of normal person goes 33 hours without meeting one person in their life? Like, because surely it means like he didn't meet anybody in the hive that were like, oh, this guy. Like, so why did he go on notice? Was he asleep for 33 hours? Like, what was going on in his life for those hours? Like, I think
it's a good question.
I don't expect anyone here to have the answer because we're not in the writer's room. But yeah, it's just like, who is he? What kind of person is he that he's just away from the grid for almost 2 days?
Yeah, I guess the one thing I came away with it was that there's a lot more to learn about him, and that's exciting. That's the good part. Someone in the chat here says, did you notice that all this tech is old 80s and 90s? That's not something that I noticed.
Someone said at Rene 6, maybe he'll contact Carol through the police car. I don't know if ham radios work from Albuquerque to Paraguay, but that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah,
she does have a radio. That part is true for sure.
Did anybody have any
police car for much longer?
I know, Pete, you're not big into like fan theories, so I can try to throw one out there just to have one in the mix. But I've been thinking a lot about what is the actual physical means by which the hive mind connects all the human brains together. And in the first episode, when they mentioned all the cell towers are down, I assumed maybe that was because, I guess on one hand, they don't need cell networks. What's the point? They can communicate telepathically. But also, is there a chance the signals could interfere with the connectivity between the brains? And maybe the ham radio, if he gets to the right frequency, it could like scramble them somehow.
Yeah, I did see quite a few theories that he wasn't trying to. I guess that's why I brought this up, and then I didn't follow up. But he's not trying to find other people out there. He's trying to figure out a way to interrupt or mess with
the signal.
Yeah, but I don't think we have enough to say that like it's a novel idea. I mean, I think it's worth putting in the back of your mind somewhere, but I don't think there was enough, at least not for me, with no experience at all at using one of those radios to say he was doing anything. I mean, he had an egg timer. One thing I would say that stands out when I thought about it more, if he's trying to find people, why is he not talking? You talk on a radio, you don't listen.
I thought so that as well, yeah.
Yeah, so that is an interesting thing because when I saw it, I was like, okay, he's got this egg timer. He's checking each frequency for a certain amount of time to see if someone's on it. But if you think someone's on it, you say hello.
Well, maybe he's not a ham radio guy.
And then they say something. Right?
He doesn't know what he's doing. He just found a ham radio. He got it years ago.
Possible too. Yeah.
When the phone rings, he does the same thing. He's silent. He waits to hear the voice on the other side speak first. And when Carol calls, right? And he hangs up on her twice before she cusses him out.
Maybe he assumes that anyone who is also on the signal will be like speaking. So he's waiting to see who speaks. My only pushback, and I know we don't want to spend too much time on this, my only pushback on him trying to interfere with the signals is that he would need to know so much about them. and we know he doesn't talk to them, so he probably doesn't know anything about them. Like he's asked even less questions than Carol.
I definitely don't think he's trying to do that. I think it's what it seems like, which is that he's looking for other, quote unquote survivors. But if I put my tinfoil hat on and think what could be a fun twist down the road, for me that would be like a weird happy accident. But I agree. I mean, especially with how hunkered down he's been, he's probably not asking any questions. I doubt he knows anything close to the amount Carol knows about them.
Yeah, in the comments, someone said, MJ323 said, if you talk, you give yourself away. So I think he would only listen at first. So yeah, if he is paranoid, if it's about paranoia, then that does kind of make sense that he's just sort of lurking, not trying to give himself away.
Can I ask a question? Because obviously, like I said, I haven't podcasted about this show. So this is a question I've had from the first episode. So my thinking behind how they joined the entire world was that they sent the virus out over the course of, was it a year? When was since the accident at the lab? Was it a month? Was it a month?
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking.
But between the accident at the lab and then the day everything happened, my thinking is that
it was a little bit longer than a month, I think, is what it was.
So my thinking is that they sent the virus out and then they activated it all at once. Not that they infected everybody on that day. That was my thinking behind it.
My interpretation was that they were doing it by saliva first, with the kissing and the licking of donuts and whatnot. Then Zosha tells Carol in episode 2, I think it was, that they had to accelerate their timeline. So then they went to aerosol, and that's when we saw the airplanes with the contrails spreading it. That's when the countdown was going to that moment. The countdown we see, it goes up to that, and then it passes that after that happens. So that was the mass infection, was at that moment when Helen.
I did not know aerosol was possible. I thought it was only through saliva.
Yeah, so that's what my interpretation of the airplanes flying overhead, because she sees that with Helen right before. So.
Okay, that's fair. So I think my point is that everyone who is unjoined, or whatever you want to call them, is immune, not uncontacted. Like everyone, does that make sense? Like some people think,
the people that we know, those 13 people have an immunity for some reason.
Yes.
And I think that because it's a TV show and there have to be future seasons, and I'm sure there's more people that we haven't met yet that will end up being just not contacted, that weren't affected by the aerosol. People who live in remote places or for whatever reason. It could be a possibility. There's more. I think there has to be more immune people eventually, just because, like I said, if they're planning on having 3 or 4 seasons, they have to have some tricks up their sleeves for new characters somewhere along the line.
Yeah, I was thinking either more immune people or somehow people escaping the hive or getting disconnected.
Yeah, break-offs are a big possibility too.
Yeah,
that's what I think. Okay, sorry, we can move on. That was
Or season 1 is the Earth takeover. Once that's done, season 2 moves to another planet.
Yeah,
we're going to Mars.
The finale could be a satellite as big as Africa. They might be able to get that done. They're working on something, obviously.
They're definitely working on something. That's for sure. Yeah.
So Manusos, I don't know if anybody has anything else. I think that I kind of covered, what I liked about the just watching him fight down the bites as Carol's like ringing the phone in the background. I just thought that was a really great setup. The idea of, eating pet food to sort of avoid being, taken care of by someone is kind of a fun little thing that they do there. Anything else anybody has?
That reveal of dog food was heartbreaking. Like I thought it was such a great directorial choice. But like when they showed up what he's eating, oh my god! I think that was really good directing from in that moment when they showed that it's dog food. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I listened to the official podcast, and I guess Vince Gilligan, what they had originally wasn't gross enough. They wanted to make it look even oilier, and I mean, wet dog food is not appetizing. I mean, I guess
God.
dogs find it quite
Hot take.
appetizing.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. What my missus is doing. I'm sorry, man. I would take my risk with their food. I just
That's
couldn't do it.
the finale of the podcast, Pete, in a few weeks. The dog food challenge.
Oh
Who
my
will do
God,
it?
no way. I mean, I guess it's, it's not poison. So if someone gave me enough money, I would definitely eat it.
I start sending those super
there's
chats.
a
We're setting a
number.
goal.
There's a number, I'm sure, but I think the other thing with this is that I think it is funny it makes you think about how hungry would you get before you would accept that. And I think for most people it's pretty low. If you're hungry, you're going to eat their food, you know what I mean? Like,
Or demand a Sprouts, be restocked just for you.
yeah. So you can maintain your independence.
And then you can
not
order
having
like
food.
already made. Let's not even get started with
The
that.
frozen
Like,
meal.
Yeah.
You
lean
would definitely
cuisine.
start to have those thoughts of like, it's not poison. Like they're not that crazy. Come
They're
on,
not
I'll
that
scrape
crazy.
it
Like,
off.
oh,
Days,
take
you
the
might have
risk.
days of that going back and forth in your head, and then you would just
I-
say, well, I'm going to die anyway, so I might as well eat it, because
Also,
if
he
I'm
has
dead,
like 2 cans of dog food. You're only pushing the can down the road like 2 steps. You're gonna have to eat their food eventually.
another
Like,
thing I really loved about this, the way they made this, was the way that he tried to enjoy the sugar packets and the creamer. Like it was sort of like this is the good stuff. I'm going to do the good stuff first. Kind
but
of.
even the
I would
creamer.
have saved it
like,
for
before-
last to get the dog food.
I would have
taste
done
out.
it too. You're exactly right. That I'm 100% with you. That's the way I would have went.
But I
I would
almost
have had like one bite of dog food, then one little bit of sugar to kind
Put the
of
sugar
taste
on the dog food.
it. That's a
But-
good idea too.
But even the creamer, like before we knew dog food was coming, I felt bad at the creamer because that's in a storage facility. We don't know how long it's been there. Could be congealed. It could it's already bad on its
It's not
own.
dairy.
I don't know if you've ever been to a diner in the United States, but I think the stuff they put on the tables there just lasts forever. I think that
They're like
that's
Twinkies. They
fair.
last forever.
That's fair. Okay, that's fair.
they don't refrigerate it or anything. I don't know what's inside of it, but it can't be milk.
It's not.
per
It's
se.
some non-dairy concoction.
Yeah. All right. So I guess that was about everything I had to say about Manusos, but I'm looking forward to seeing what he gets up to. I feel like they set the stage. He can't just stay there and do nothing. He's pretty much, used the resources that he had available to him. So he's going to have to get out into the world one way or another. And I'm looking forward to seeing that. Carol is she's a little different in this episode. She sobers up a bit. She is real quick, I saw there was one of Sean Wheeland 9763. Thank you for the 199. Very cool to see amateur radio in this episode. So I didn't want to move on before we like I said, I wish I knew more about it. I spent some time looking into it, but it was pretty it's a big hobby that's been a very popular hobby for a long time. I just never knew anyone that was into it, so never had any direct contact with it. One other comment we had here real quick that was on Manusos too. Rock the C-Pop is in Thailand, the TH Bot 100. I think Manusos is a breakaway. He wants nothing to do with the others because he already knows what they're about. Well, that would require a direct lie from the Hive, which I'm kind of with Carol. I don't believe they're capable of. What do you guys think about that?
No, I agree with your take. I think I did see a comment earlier where someone asked, do we know that he's immune? And I guess it's possible that he is just so remote and isolated that they haven't actually been able to get anything in there that would infect him. So I don't think he's a breakaway, but I do think it's possible that he's not immune, but they just haven't reached him. Though it's hard to believe too. I think they'd be able to get some kind of they'd be able to get something in there. So
I've got him, yeah. If it's
So I take it all back. I've got nothing to add.
Yeah, I don't think he's a breakaway. But I think, as you guys already brought up, I think breakaways will be possible in the future and maybe pretty important.
Yeah, just one other point about Minusos. I'm sure a couple of you also looked up what Turca means, because when he writes down Carol's name after they get off,
Yeah.
he writes it S Turca, and he spells it
Uh-huh.
out like phonetically, but it says is Turca. And Pete, I think you mentioned this, that Turca is
Yeah.
Turkish, right? But she did manage to get through on the line that she is from the United States. And it's worth noting that Turca in Spanish is slang for drunk. So I don't know if that's a common slang word that
Huh.
they use in Paraguay, but I know throughout other parts of Latin America, it is a word that they use to describe someone like getting seriously drunk, binging, stuff like that. So I thought it was kind of a perhaps cute little wordplay going on there.
Yeah.
Carol is a drunk.
I got quite a few comments saying that they interpreted it as saying S Turca, like spelling it out that way. Just because in Spanish there aren't very many Spanish words that start with the letter S. It's usually ES. So that made sense to me. I didn't think about it. I talked to a few people who saw the episode, and they kind of landed where I did, and we just kind of thought it was a funny misunderstanding.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right that she did say United. That's like one of the few words that she actually got out before he hung up on her. So who knows? I thought maybe they would say something more about it. I did pick up the idea that, because another thing I saw was people were saying that he doesn't sound like he's from Paraguay at all. He sounds Colombian, which he is. And so because he on the official podcast, he came in and said that he couldn't do the Paraguay accent. So they just decided to make him an expat, someone from Colombia who lives in Paraguay. So that's interesting to see where that goes too, I guess.
Which that could explain why he doesn't have family around, if he's maybe he traveled here and they didn't come with him.
So they wouldn't know where he was or what was going on with him. Yeah. So back to Carol. Before we even last week we had Robert Bailey Jr. in here with us, and this Jeff Hiller conversation, it made me just think, because there were so many questions around, well, if Carol's the only immune person, if everyone else is in the hive, how do you get other characters? And I really like this idea of just bringing in good actors to do these one episode appearances, and then you can always of course invite them back later if you want to for just a little kick. So I guess, like I said, the biggest things about Carol here is that a few days have passed since the end of since the grenade incident. So she's kind of got herself back on track. I mean, obviously she's not done mourning Helen, the loss of Helen, but she's not completely immobilized like she was in the first few episodes. And she does some interesting things here, to say the least. I don't know. I guess we'll just start with, with this conversation with Jeff, and the whiteboards is something that maybe we could get into, because those are also pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
Since we all do we don't really necessarily write like she writes, but since we all jot down notes for things, I'm sure in one way or another, this is something that maybe we can appreciate. That,
well,
I mean, for one thing, yeah, go ahead.
No, just quick, because just give me a second. This worked in my trial, so let's see if I can do it. Okay, it's not working right now. Anyway, it's like the fact that I had my own notes app of the things that we know about the hive, and then immediately it happened on the show. I was like, this is why I like the show. This is why I'm in the bag for this show. And I couldn't. It's part of a larger thing that we've discussed in the Jeff Hiller conversation when we get there, but it's just it just felt right that she would be doing exactly what all of us with our tinfoil hats are doing while watching the show as well. But just on Carol, before we get into her quickly, if you don't mind, Pete, you started your video talking about like her unlikability, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
I find Carol so relatable that I'm surprised that people find her unlikable. I like the Ice Hotel scene. I was like, this is my autobiography. Like, aren't we all like maybe we're not all miserable. Let me not like blanket statement everybody. Like, I have been in that position where the person you're with is like enjoying the view and everything, and you're just like the spoiled sport, and you know that you're the Debbie Downer and you're trying to change it, but at the same time, it's just like your natural instinct. I think I don't see what is so bad about Carol that everybody else seems to be hating on the internet. Like, I think she's reacting exactly how you'd react in this situation. I think she's a normal person. Granted, I'm also like a creative person who shares her neurosis, so maybe that's the reason. But like, at worst, she's someone who like doesn't know how to enjoy things. But like, isn't that how most people are? Like, isn't that like, I mean, obviously some people are very well adjusted and very well happy for them, but like I feel like most people are kind of like Carol and don't want to admit it. Like, so I have been so because I was like, she hasn't done anything that, like, you compared it to Succession, I was like, she hasn't done anything that bad yet. Why are we so angry at Carol? Like, she seems very, very relatable, and I kind of will be doing exactly what she's doing. That's just like my Carol take.
Yeah, I just want to put it out there before, because I do want to get into this a little bit. I wasn't saying that I didn't like her. I was saying
obviously,
which is
people on the internet have been saying it 100%.
Yeah. I think that like you said, there's things that I find relatable. There's things that I find frustrating, but I mean, I also want a character to be complicated. Like, I don't want her to be like, if she's going to turn out to be the hero of the story, like, I don't want her to just be like unimpeachable, like throughout and just perfect. Like, that's not really an interesting story to me, because there's not that much. I mean, if we're going to watch this for four seasons, I want to see her change. I want to see her react. I want to feel like I get to know her and be able to anticipate what she's going to do. All the things that for me make TV good. So, with Breaking Bad, they made us like Walt before they revealed who he was, and that was what made it a good story. Like, you felt like, well, shit, how I'm rooting for this guy, but he's a monster, and now I don't know what to do with those feelings. You know what I mean? And I see people making that comparison of like, well, people don't like Carol just because she's a woman. And that's definitely part of it. I mean, I'm not going to say that that's not, but I think of it more of like, this is setting up her turn in a way in a character arc, rather than it just being like, oh, they're making her completely, whatever. And people just aren't grabbing it. I think we're supposed to find her a little bit grating, some of the things that she does, and that not, like I said, we're not in like, oh, this makes her a bad character, but it's what makes her a good character for me. I don't know what you guys think.
I feel like, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I completely agree with you, Bankole. Like, completely agree with you. Actually, I think I would probably be worse if I was in her situation. I mean, considering her partner just died, the world as she knows it has just like completely turned upside down, and we're like at this point, like a week after, you know. So not a lot of time has passed, and that's a lot to process for someone. And so, yeah, I've noticed a lot of the Carol dislike as well, but like Pete, I agree. I think maybe they're doing something kind of like the inverse Walter White, maybe, like where you have a character that's difficult, and she's nuanced, and she has her flaws, and she's grumpy, and maybe she took a lot of things for granted or couldn't really appreciate things. And the show has, taken pains to illustrate that a lot of this misery predated the joining. Although, like, I would be miserable if I had to sleep on a bed of ice. I'm just saying, no way.
It's not unreasonable.
I need a fireplace.
Yeah, what I really like about that too is that there's so much like that scene could have been a lot of different things, but in that situation, she knew that this is where they were going. She missed the detail about a bed of ice, you know what I mean? But like, what really makes that interesting is that you see how Helen anticipated that this was how she would be. and Helen was there to kind of, like, you just saw how their
Yeah.
how their relationship worked, like not in like a codependent situation, but just sort of in a complementary way, like how they settled into their relationship and had their roles, and you got so much from that. And yeah, like, you know, if you didn't know that, if you were, it was like a surprise and you were in an ice hotel, that'd be one thing. You'd be like, well, you should have asked me about this because this is super expensive and I hate being cold or whatever, you know. But at the same time, she signed up for it, right? And so I feel like that's where that scene is really interesting, to see how they kind of go through that. And because Helen knows her, she knows her better than any of us, and she has chosen to spend her life with her, and they have, that's the way they make all of that stuff better for each other. You know, so I thought that was really cool.
There's even a line in that scene where Helen's like, "You should be happy. Like, you love to be miserable.
You love being miserable."
and I don't know if it was on the live or on the podcast, but Chris mentioned how on our podcast how like Helen just knows what to do to Carol. She doesn't like shout at her for being exposed, but she's just like, she knows how to manage her, which is probably why she was her manager. But like. It's like everyone who is like Carol does need a Helen as their partner, right? Like someone who's like I'm not saying that Carol is right. I'm just saying that
we're not for everyone.
Yeah,
you know? Like
most
people
who
have like chronic anhedonia, like it you have to have the right kind of partner. I'm
it was like watching a mirror that episode. I was like, this is too close to home. This is who I am.
I was talking to somebody about the show the other day, and he made a comparison to Curb Your Enthusiasm, where I was watching that show, and I'm like, I love this guy. He's just like me. And then you meet people, and they're like, I can't stand that show. And I'm like, hey, you're talking about me. But I think it's my knee-jerk reaction when I hear people complaining about how Carol's unlikable is I want to just dismiss that. I'm like, what are you talking about? But if I try to put myself in their shoes, I think it is true that just viscerally, it can be unpleasant to be around someone who's miserable and complaining all the time. And even if you list all the reasons why, and they're very logical, it's like she's grieving for Helen, the entire world just became a hive mind. Like, might there be a reason she's a little bit upset? It's like, yes, there's a lot of reasons. Still unpleasant to be around. And I think that's why TV shows with these types of characters usually find ways to counterbalance it. Often with humor, like the example I always go to. Actually, someone mentioned Succession earlier. That's a great example. Those characters are horrible, but they're also witty, so they're entertaining. And that kind of makes them, it counterbalances it, so you want to be around them. And then over time, you start to peel back the layers and understand what drives them. And then sympathy and empathy comes in. And I think they're already doing that a lot with Carol. Like, she is witty and she is funny. And there are some really positive qualities. Like, as much as she complains about her fans, for example, everything I write is BS. But in the opening scene, we meet her being very patient and kind to her fans. Like the moment where she tells the lady which page to skip to see Raban is actually going to come back and he's okay. And anytime someone's in danger, you know, the guy in the pickup truck in episode 1, Zosha, she always springs to help them. She's the only character we've met on the show, other than maybe Menusa, who is trying to help us and free us from the hive. I didn't choose to be part of the hive, and she's trying to help me. So there's a lot there, but I understand, you know, if the premise is not hooking you, and so you're just kind of impatient, then anything that annoys you is going to sort of be amplified. So I can understand where they're coming from, even though I strongly disagree, and at no point have found her unlikable.
Just a quick question. Which show have we watched that had a quote-unquote hero that was good? Like I can't think of.
It's hard to think of one that has a hero in
like procedurals, you know, like cop shows.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Is that what we're looking for? Like, it's just like I'm trying to think of like what are you guys looking for in a hero? I think this is the best hero as in best as of a good person we've got in maybe 20 years. Like,
usually I mean, really since the 90s,
Sopranos,
it sort of always goes that way, is that you find out that the person that seems cool is actually really dangerous and has this dark side, and it goes off the rails. So
thank you to everyone in the comment section who A, agreed with me and Courtney, and B, who wants me to be happy. I want to be happy too, guys. Like, this is just the case. This is how I am. Like,
this is me happy.
Yes, congrats, you got your wish.
And
People don't understand the baseline idea, like this is me being happy right now.
Yeah.
This is
And
it.
just one other thing about Carol that I think is worth noting is that she's a very reluctant hero, right? And this is something that Vince Gilligan has said himself. And so the fact that like when she gets to Air Force One, she's not really maybe looking to lead. She's hoping to find someone willing to lead, and then realizes that everyone's like chill with it. And like they're like, life's not that bad. And to that point, I think the question of Carol's likability is, I really think, less of an issue than the division of people that are like Team Hive versus like Team Humanity. And I've seen a lot of people that are really Team Hive, and I think that's where the greater division is. Like people think this is like an attractive thing. I don't know what you guys in the comments think. Like, are you Team Hive? But I feel like we don't have enough information. I want to know who sent that signal and like what their purpose was, because just, I guess I'm projecting our own basis human, history out onto the alien landscape. But I think they're trying to make us docile so they can take over our planet or convert us. But
that's what you would think. That's what you would think. And I also am curious that when we did the first one, we sort of started off with how Hive curious we were, and like what we thought we would do. Last week we kind of got out of it, but yeah, why don't we just go around, and because like the thing with Hive Mind stories, I mean, a lot of them were like a lot of the ones that a lot of it was Cold War propaganda. There was quite a bit of that.
Oh.
Well, yeah, in sci-fi, and like it's not in TV shows, I guess, but in sci-fi writing, there was a lot of that. Because of the collective, it was often was a like a way of saying communism without saying communism. But this idea of, because the thing about the Hive that always is makes me curious whenever I read stories about that is that we do value individualism, and we don't really know anything but that. Like that's the reality, at least for me, like growing up when I did. And then we also know that humans as individuals do horrible things to each other. And so they're like, it seems to me obvious that we need some sort of intervention as far as like our worst impulses. But the thing about this story that sets everything apart is that there was no consent. No one got a chance to join the Hive. The Hive was imposed upon everyone. The people that are inside it now think, "Wow, this is great. You would love it." In this episode, I thought one of the best lines was that we've been you, and now we're this, and we like this better. But it doesn't really change the fact that without a choice, that's another thing that we're not really down with as human beings, right? Is just, so yeah, like as far as like the Hive, because I think they're making a pretty concerted effort to make us not be sure which side is better as much as you can. I don't think that you can really do it as much as, I don't think you can really make it as like it's a 50-50 no matter what you do, but I think they're trying to make it as even as possible. So as far as it goes, like, do you find yourselves thinking, well, the Hive isn't that bad, or I might join the Hive, or what do you think?
Courtney, do you want to go first?
Sure. If you don't know my feelings already, I'm definitely not Team Hive. I think it's interesting, and I think the show raises a lot of really interesting questions about individualism versus collectivism and the value of each, and really pits those two things against each other in a really clever and thoughtful way. But ultimately, I feel like we just don't have enough information. And Pete, you really hit the nail on the head when you talked about consent. I think we deserve a choice over our own bodily autonomy, and that's fundamentally what it comes down to for me. And as far as like their experience and the we talking through Zoja as we've been you and now we know how much better this is, you have to also remind yourself that there is no subjectivity there. That is the collective hive mind speaking. So of course it's going to say that it's great, you should join us. So I like having my own thoughts. I don't want 8 billion voices in my head. That sounds horrible. Or however it works. No, thank you.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with not enough information, because we've purposefully not heard the pitch. Carol does not want to ask the heroin dealer about their heroin. So we haven't even heard why we should want to join the Hive. But as much as the Hive tries to sell the idea that the people are still there, they're just part of this grander whole. Like, we saw patient zero, and the moment she got infected, she started kissing other people, licking donuts, and trying to spread the infection. I don't think that person, just of their own volition, was like, I think I should spread this to others. Clearly, there's some prerogative that's downloaded into her mind.
Biological imperative.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, I can only consider the pros and cons as like a purely intellectual exercise. Emotionally, I think the idea of individualism is so ingrained, there'd be no way for me to get away from it. But if I tried to intellectualize it a little bit, it seems like they're trying to sell kind of like the Matrix idea. Like, we're going to plug you in and just flood you with contentment, and that's the rest of your existence. But if I reflect back on my life, the times where I was happiest, it wasn't that I was content or joyful at all times. Like, very recently, I did a big project for my channel. I was working crazy hard, was barely sleeping. It was very difficult, but never have I felt more fulfilled and satisfied, because I was pursuing something very creative that I wanted to do. And it seems like desire has been erased. There's only one singular desire, whatever the hive mind wants. So, and that's kind of what Carol's trying to sell, that life is more complicated than joy versus not joy. So, I mean, as an intellectual exercise, I can kind of weigh the pros and cons, and maybe it'll change if and when we finally hear the pitch and get a better idea what it's actually like. But at least at the moment, that's kind of where I stand.
So I guess it's my job to give the counter argument.
You don't have to, but it probably would make for a better conversation.
I would say this, as someone who consumes this kind of stories, and we kind of always know where this is going, and as someone who makes and consumes art like a lot, hive is bad. Hive mind is bad. We know that. We all like respect our individuality. Like, that's what makes us human. That's what makes us special. All of that stuff. But I would say that in respect to the show, their writing is so good, because I do think both Kumba and Zusha are making solid points. Guys, the human experiment, I would say it has failed, but it's not been great. Like, we've done some good things, but right now, like, it's kind of on fire. So, like, I can understand.
I think about the three body problem. Like, that's pretty much the premise of that too. Is that some people just decided, you know what, humans are fucked. There's nothing we can do about it. So we welcome our alien overlords.
Like, if someone asked me, I would say no. I don't think the hive mind is good. I think we respect our individuality. That's what makes art. That's what makes art beautiful. All of that stuff. That's what makes everything. But I can see the pitch, and it's kind of like the Severance thing, right? Where I can see the pitch. I can see why
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do Severance, but you understand why someone might be tempted.
Exactly. Yeah. And I always say the consent is like a big thing, but it's also like, from my idea, because somebody asked in the comments if they are connected to the Hive 600 light years away. I don't think so. I think it's like whatever planet you're on.
Doesn't seem to be explicit that they know they're not the aliens, but they don't. 600 light years away. That's difficult for them to actually be in.
So I think it's like they were children in episode 1, and now they're growing. They are learning more, as Zusha said. So like the consent thing is also tricky, because like who is asking for consent? Like, there is no like one person spreading it across. It's just like happened. It just grew like a plant or whatever. So no, but
if all they're really doing is making a giant satellite to spread it somewhere else, like, how fulfilling or good is that in the long run? I mean, yeah, they're happy in the short term, but like, what does that even mean? They're just no,
but they're always fulfilled because they're just always happy, and everything is always utopic.
Yeah, and that's something we talked about last week, in the stream, was because we were talking about the way that Carol feels about Zusha, and some of that, like, there's real attraction and everything else, but it's completely fake. And that brings up something that I wanted to ask you guys about too, was this idea that they love Carol's work as much as Shakespeare because it saved a life. So like there's something to that, right? There's something
Mhm.
to this idea that, and certainly the way Helen described it, I can get behind. You know, if you're making someone happy, because I mean
One
I'm
person
a
happy.
YouTuber, you know what I mean? I don't write books or do some other things. I make YouTube about stuff
You're
that people
just as
like.
good as Shakespeare, Pete.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
But
Just because
you
Vince
know,
Gilligan.
so but I mean, I have been a creative that made, you know, art for art, you know, not for this type of situation. And so yeah, like there's definitely this thing in my mind where I get what he's saying, you know, it saved the life, but at the same time, that if the hive was a thing, like that doesn't exist anymore, you know, like human experience, art, things like that are really, they're not really important anymore. I don't think so.
Yeah, it
I
gets
don't think
complicated.
the hive can make
Like,
art.
why watch movies if you already
Exactly.
know or read books or anything? You have all of, you know, humanity's collective data banks of everything, you know, like there's no way to be excited. There's no way to be surprised. There's no way to connect because you're already connected. And
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think
that's
that's
what
why,
art is about connecting with other people in this different way, like not through conversation, not through work or some other exchange, but just because we both feel something about a thing that is that and because we're feeling something in that moment, we know that we're connected in a different way, something we can't put our finger on.
Yeah, that's why I think it's when Zosha, anytime she's trying to have like a one-on-one personal conversation with Carol, all she can do is list out fun facts, because all the things we normally converse about are the things.
And her
you
fun
just
facts
listed.
are cool.
They are cool. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Get old
but
eventually, but
yeah,
ChatGPT cool though, you know?
yeah. That's sort of the thing, and that's what I thought was interesting about this exchange here, because when I was first writing it, I was just like writing my breakdown, like I was only thinking about him being a chatbot. Like everything he was saying was just exactly what it would spit out. But then when I thought about that idea that they do have experience in there also, like they didn't, it's not just searching the internet. I mean, it is, but they also have the individual in some way, that experience of like being saved by her story, not just the idea of someone being saved by it. So I thought that was pretty interesting too. But I mean, the AI comparisons are really good, and I know that they're intentional, because even though the story was conceived before that came out, I know that they've said that they played around with it because it was, you know, coming to the forefront when they were writing. So it'll be interesting to see how they play with that, because it's like, you know, obviously, like you said, you can fire off fun facts and that's cool to a certain extent. And I'm sure that, you know, AI stuff is cool like that too, because it searches the internet for you or whatever it does, you know what I mean? But like, that's not the same as like sharing having a conversation with real back and forth with another human being and reacting to what's being said, and you know, having an experience together.
Can I just say that the explanation as to why Carol is equally as good as Shakespeare, it was so good to me. Like it made so much sense from the high, because like, yes, if one person's life was literally saved by her work and you all feel the same thing, then you feel
if you can all draw on that experience.
Yeah, and back when I used to write more, an idea that I had, which I never actually was able to figure out, was how great does something need to be great? If a fan group or a fan selection or whatever think this show is great, who are we to say it's not great? If that makes sense. Like because a show is not quote unquote as good as Succession or Breaking Bad or whatever, but its fans love it so much and it's like the best thing they've ever seen and they look forward to it every week. Like, do we have the power to say it's not great? And I don't know the answer, which is why I never wrote the article. But it was one of those things where, like, if somebody loves something so much, does that just make it great? Even though we don't think it's as good, and we're not going to give it Emmys, or maybe the acting is not as good. Does that make sense? So it was like how?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I would say no. Like I would say it's sort of like pop music, right? Like if you listen to any piece of pop music enough. Like, cause I mean, this is something that from working in, restaurants when I was a kid, where you're forced to listen to the radio, like other people, like if you listen to certain things enough, it will be enjoyable to you for a minute. And you might even think, wow, this is really great. This is the greatest pop music song I've ever heard. But like years later, when you look back on that, it's not the same as something that really moved you in an artistic way, right? And that's not to say that pop music is bad. It's just pop music. You know what I mean? So like if someone likes something that's like that and they really get that feeling from it and really love it, that's great. Hopefully they understand that there's something about that clicks with them, and that's why they do that. But it not everyone else doesn't have to feel the same way, because that's just not how stuff works. That's why
It's an interesting question though about how we define art and how we value art. And so like how do we decide a piece of literature or a film or a TV show even is excellent, right? Is worthy of discussion, is deserving of literary analysis? There's generally a consensus, right? But it still comes from a very subjective point of view. Like this is maybe perhaps the criteria that we use to evaluate a great TV show or a great piece of literature or whatever it is. It should offer some new perspective. That's usually something that's valued, right? It's a unique take on something, right? That's generally why we gravitate towards art, right? It shows a new experience, a new point of view, makes us think about the world in a different way, packages something in a different way. So it does raise an interesting question about how the collective or the hive views art, right? Because it's not about the subjective experience anymore. And like, I think back to what Helen said in the first episode when they're sitting at the bar and she brings up Finnegan's Wake. And I took a grad seminar on James Joyce and I laughed my butt off at that scene, because that's exactly how I felt trying to get through Ulysses. I took a whole semester to read it. And I'm sorry, Dr. Gillespie, if you're watching this, not that he would be, but I don't think I would ever read that book again for fun, right? Like I spent a semester studying it, writing about it, thinking about it, discussing why it was important in the canon of literature. But, I would rather watch Pluribus. That's more enjoyable to me.
Yeah.
I feel like it gets at one of the ideas the show is presenting, where earlier when we're talking about, pro or anti-hive, we mostly, at least I mostly came at it from an individual perspective. Would I join the hive? Whereas the general pitch is, well, humanity as a whole, quote unquote, is better off if everyone joins the hive. There's no crime, nobody's dying, or at least at a far lesser rate. And it's kind of similar with art, where it's like I can measure individually what is great art to me. It's like on a surface level, did it entertain me? Okay, that's one checkbox and it's entertaining. But then next level, did it stick with me a week later, a year later? Like you were saying, Courtney, did it give me a new perspective? Did it insert some new ideas into my mind and lead to some new avenues of thinking? But it might have had that effect on me and it didn't have that effect on somebody else. And the hive way of looking at it would just be like, let's just measure the quantity of joy it put into the world. And in that case, you're looking for something that doesn't go too deep, but stays on the surface and has kind of the mass appeal. Hive mind would be first in line, for the next Avengers movie. I will be too, so I'm not putting it down.
No, but the thing about the hive mind will be first in line for everything, because it's not the quantity, it's just one is enough. So like one person loving Super Mario or Minions or inside whatever, like just one person is enough to equate every single experience. So like and
arguably the only criteria is that it makes one person happy, right? It doesn't nothing else matters. So like
which is what Helen said in the bar.
And like why Carl made Moira McAllister in Kansas City not want to, so like that alone makes it valuable, makes it worth something, I guess.
That's one of the things I missed when I was making my video was the funny hat from Moira.
While we're on the scene with Jeff Heller, there we go. I'm able to do it now. Let me just quickly show. This is like my notes app, and I have the dates there just so everyone knows that I did do it before I watched this episode, because I had a screenshot before the dates. Anyway,
hold on. You have it in here, so I think I can put it on the screen. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Let me see.
Wait, do you have it?
It said, "Oh, it disappeared."
Oh, I stopped sharing. Anyway, people have seen it. But I'll send it to you.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, but that was just. But on the Jeff Hiller conversation, because you guys, this is now the going back to why I really love the show, and this is what made me wanted to say. It's a show that I think is not trying to stump you at all. Like, it wouldn't be. Yeah.
I was just going to say that would be consistent with what we know about the way that Vince Gilligan works.
Yeah, 100%. Because I think if you think about it, last week on you guys live, you asked the question about whether you would ask someone their true feelings about you. You asked the question. Someone brought, I think it was, I can't remember who brought up the idea about the conversion camp. And these are like, so my thing about the show is that it's not trying to stump you. It's doing everything that you would expect a good story to do. It's not trying to like be one step ahead of you. It's just telling a good story very well. It's like lots of shows like this, even shows that we love, the main aim is to be mysterious and to have like surprises, and let's make sure the audience is surprised at this hour. They're just telling a good story very straightforwardly. And I was very impressed by that. And like, what you expect them to do, because it's what you would do in real life, they're doing it, but just very well. You expect that Carol would ask, what did Helen think about this? Even though we don't want her to do it, that's the next logical thing to do. And the show just like, yeah we're going to do that. So I like that about the show.
I liked hearing Ray Seahorn say in the official podcast that this was she knew that she was asking them something she knew that they wouldn't want to answer because it would be distressing for her. That didn't hit me right away when I was first watching it, but yeah, I thought that was an interesting detail because there is that thing that if you could know, it would almost eat you up. And if there were like, if someone had a secret, say that they went into the hive with, and you knew you could access that secret finally, it would be hard not to ask in a lot of situations.
It's the human thing to do. It's the next step.
But you also know in your heart that you don't really want to know the answer to a lot of the questions that take up space in your head, because that's the answer isn't necessarily, it's not like knowing what people think is not the same as how people feel or how they act. Like we all think things that we like, why was I thinking that? Like, get that out of my head.
Yeah.
So we
all have a public and a private persona, like just in case Carol at the book signing puts on her public face. She's very amenable to her fans, signing all their stuff and everything. So, and we see she feels quite differently in her private life.
Yeah. So I'm just really proud of the show for is quote unquote a mystery show, but like they're not trying to stump you. They're just telling a good story, and they're just following the logical steps that this story should take. And Carol is doing, whether you like her or not, she's doing the logical things that a human being should do in this situation. And that really just I like that from a storytelling point of view. I'm just very impressed by it.
Yeah, if we think back to Better Call Saul, and like as we were approaching the end of the series, there was a lot of theorizing. And I feel like in the end, things happened in a pretty logical way. And the surprises weren't big left turn twists that came out of nowhere. They were more decisions that characters made that were a little bit like, oh, I didn't think they would do that, but it makes sense. And I think Vince Gilligan always goes to, I'm character first. Like that's what drives the story forward. And I think that's what makes it feel so logical. Because usually when you have friction with a movie or a show, it's oftentimes comes from the characters doing things that don't feel consistent with what's been set up.
Or a surprise or a shock. Yeah,
because it always makes it feel dishonest whenever you feel like they're trying to trick you just for the sake of tricking you. Because like you said, there's so much work that goes into setting up all the different story beats and reveals and different things. So whenever they just don't do any of that stuff and they say, hey, here this thing happened, then you're like, well, wait a minute, this feels completely like you're just trying to trick me.
I couldn't believe they had the press conference in the pilots. And when she goes, "What is this? Alien invasion?" Right? I was like, "Oh, okay. This is like she's just saying what is
Yeah.
logical."
So
Like
you're
I was
just
like,
checking off
yeah,
the things so
Well,
that
and
you're
she's
not
literally
worried.
sitting on a couch watching TV. Like, you know, we might be sitting in a chair. Right? She's sitting
yeah.
next to us and saying the things that we want to say.
And I was just like, I was like, oh yeah, and then obviously the next thing she wants to do is meet, as opposed to a show that will drag out meeting all other 12 or 13 across the first season. She's like, no, that's the next step. That's the next
Yeah,
stage.
no, I want that
And
now. I
yeah,
want that
it's
now.
just like, I like the fact that it's like, yeah, obviously you think that alien invasion if you've just seen the last 40 minutes of your life. And I just like the fact that like the show is, yeah, it's not trying to draw things that need to be drawn out. It tells you, it puts a question and answers in that episode or the next episode, and it's just quite straightforward in the story. There's nothing special in its storytelling beside it being excellent. Like there is no twist, no surprise. It's just excellent storytelling. So yeah, that's my main thing I love about the show. It's just quite good at telling the story simply. Yeah.
I agree, and I think it's true to Gilligan's form of storytelling is what I think of as process, and you see the characters work problems out. And I know some people think it's slow, like watching, spoiler alert for Better Call Saul, but like watching Mike take apart a car trying to find a tracker, or Nacho trying to figure out how to drop something in a coat pocket, or watching, Carol or Minuto's trying to figure out, we don't even really know, maybe like in Minuto's case, what he's like doing at first. And I love that you're learning with them, you're kind of problem solving with them. I love that sort of slow burn sort of drama, but it's not a slow burn. I feel like there's a lot that's happened, right? Like you think of everything that's happened in the first 4 episodes already.
Yeah. It's funny. I kept hearing people say like nothing's happening. And I think to explain that phenomenon, it's the fact that the show started with an alien invasion. So it just sets the bar really high.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, nothing at that scale has happened since that moment. So I can see where people are coming from, but I agree with you, Courtney. I mean, a lot's happening. You know, every episode, I feel like we're learning more.
Yeah. The first episodes are 55 minutes, 65 minutes, and then the rest are like 40. The rest are like normal, like broadcast drama time. Like that's what TV was, right? 40 minutes episode, 45 minutes episode. So like, yeah, it's, I don't know. We used to tell stories in weekly chunks before. It wasn't just like, I don't know how to,
but I think
not to be like old man shouting at clouds, but like,
if the show didn't win you over at the start, then I think it's going to feel excruciating, because then you're like, why am I spending 10 minutes watching this guy? Now, if you're hooked on the show, then you're fascinated because you're thinking, I'm going to meet one of the only other people who isn't converted and part of the hive, and possibly the only one who is seemingly on the same page as Carol. So you want to learn everything you can about them. And then in the grand scheme of things, 10 minutes is not a very long time. And, not to go back and have that whole conversation again, but at any point when the show is really taking its time, you're on the edge of your seat and you're fascinated, because you're also not just passively watching, you're thinking through some of the questions we talked about earlier. What would I do in this situation? What are the philosophical implications of this, hive versus individual? But if you're not bought into the show, it probably would feel like it's moving at a glacial pace.
Yeah, and I think I'm not ignorant to know that, that this show is made for us and is made for most people on this like live stream. Like people who know we know how Gilligan is, and we know like we're in tune for his style. So like most people might not want to watch a 10-minute montage of doing something, and like, but that's what Gilligan cares about, the process. He cares about how does Mike smuggle something across the border? What does he need to move away in the truck? Like which is why the Menuso scene felt so much like Breaking Bad to Better Call Saul, because we see somebody. How does someone do something? Which is Gilligan's question every time. Like, what is the process? So I know that many people will not like it the way we like it, because we are so in tune in the Gilligan way of doing things, which is fine, and that's fair. We don't have a monoculture anymore. Not everything is made for everybody. It's like, if you're loving this show, or people just don't like it, and that's fine. Like, genuinely, that's fine. Like, we just have so many different things for different people right now. So,
Courtney, how are you doing on time? Because I don't want to, like, usually when things get going, I don't want you to feel like you are stuck.
I'm enjoying it. I can hang for like another 10, 15 minutes. I don't want to go to bed.
Yeah, it's cool. I was, I just didn't want, because like I said, sometimes it gets going and then I feel like, oh, you wanted to go but you weren't able to or something. What I guess if you're going to be here, maybe not as long as the rest of us, is there something that in particular that you wanted to talk about with this about Carol, or this episode in particular?
Okay, well, yeah, I mentioned this at the top of the stream,
You
but
mentioned the Asimovian thing in the
yeah.
beginning. I
Are you
wanted
guys
to hear a little
familiar
bit more
with
about that.
Yeah, are you familiar with, I mean, I know obviously they're not robots, it's not AI,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
get it. You guys don't have to yell at me in the chat, but I think it is a useful lens for thinking about how the hive works, right? So just a quick little overview of the three laws of Asimovian, I guess the laws for robotics, right? It's like, number one,
Right.
they can't do harm to a human being.
Mhm.
And they have to stop, like, if they have to prevent harm from befalling a human being. Number two is they have
Or
to
through
obey.
inaction, they can't let it happen.
Yeah,
So
through
they can't
inaction.
just stand by and let it happen. Yeah.
Yeah, like an alien, or sorry, a robot would definitely have had to save Jane, right? They couldn't have just stood by like, well.
Mhm.
Number two is they have to obey all commands and orders from humans, unless, and it's hierarchical. So like for the second and the third law, they will always be superseded by the first law, right? So
Mhm.
they must always obey a human unless it violates rule one. And then finally, the third one is that it must protect its own existence, right? Unless it's in conflict with one of the first two.
Yeah.
So I was,
Unless it's a human killing it, then it
yeah.
has to just be like, oh, okay, well, if that's what you want, then go ahead.
Yeah, and I was thinking about the title of this episode and how it, again, it's a sort of fun play on words. Please, Carol. Like they're under
That's
this
what they
directive.
do.
They have to
Mhm.
please her. They have to keep her happy. But then we run into this paradox of obedience, right? Where they want to give her what she wants. They want to tell her the truth. They want to make her happy, but it is at their peril and her peril, right? Because I think ultimately, Carol is from the point of view where she doesn't want to be changed. She wants to maintain autonomy. And, but of course, Zoja let us know at the end of Grenade of episode 3 that they see her as someone who is drowning, right? They think they must save her. It is their biological imperative to save her. So I think it's just I'm still kind of teasing through the ideas of how that applies, but I think they're operating in very much that same way, right? Like where they have to obey the law of not harming humans. They must obey humans, right? And then only in the third place can they defend themselves. And you see how that is complicated with consent when it comes to the other humans like Kumba, which I don't know if any of you have talked about this previously. That's a whole other conversation though. But yeah, please, Carol.
Yeah, that's cool. I did like the double meaning of that. And I think it was the first 2 episodes when we were talking, Jim and I were talking about the hierarchy, because in the comments people were talking about the executive function of a hive, like there has to be somebody in charge. It's even if it's everything in one, it still has to have this directive, right? And we know that has a biological imperative. And well, for us, like we have biological imperatives, but we can change the hierarchy around what's most important based on what we need. Like if we haven't had water for 24 hours, then that becomes the most important thing. Or whatever, if it's a storm and we need to get shelter right away. So yeah, I think that it feels like there should be a framework, like you're saying, like there should be a framework of how being in this hive works as far as how they do things. And I would like to understand that better, and I think that we will. I mean, I think that that's something that we're gonna find out a lot more about. But it is curious because she is, I think at the end of this episode where it's kind of, for me, it felt like a big turning point because she made them cry. I know that the Carolina Vidra said in interviews, her interpretation was it was because they were sad that she made them sad, which is not really supposed to be possible, so I feel like that they can't really go back to how things were before. That was my feeling at the end whenever I that. So that I don't know how that relates to what you were saying directly, but I feel like that's the way that you're describing it is fun because of the way that that's sort of how we're going to have to put it together. What's fun about those Asimov stories is finding ways to poke holes in those rules. And that's what a lot of them do, because they sound perfect. When you hear them, you say, oh, wow, that makes perfect sense. These robots will never hurt anyone. And then you go, well, what about if we did this? Then this one point breaks down. So part of her discovering how to get through to the hive might be by identifying those objectives or those ways that things work, and then trying to find loopholes or ways to stress it and make it so that she can, get through to them.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to quickly just say, and it doesn't mean that the same Asimovian rules will apply to the hive, but yes, trying to find out like what makes them tick, and so what is this biological imperative that is driving them, and what are the parameters to that as well, and how that operates. And so as we learn more, I think that's what Carol is ultimately trying to figure out, like what are the limits that they operate under.
Yeah, and I feel like this episode, it's funny because you're watching the show and coming up with the rules and pulling them from the ones Asimov came up with, and it seems like they do map to some extent onto the way they're acting. But we're essentially seeing Carol do that this episode on the whiteboard. She's coming up with the rules and stress testing them. And going back to what we were saying earlier about how there's, we're not expecting some big left turn or surprise that comes out of nowhere, and it's really gratifying to watch. The way she's fighting this is by gathering information, coming up with the rules. And I feel like whatever happens next is going to be playing within that framework. So like if you're paying close attention and theorizing, you might be able to come up with the next tactic. And I also think it's, I was thinking about why it's so appropriate for Carol to be an author and why that makes her uniquely equipped for this. And somebody who's constantly coming up with storylines and setting up all these things and then figuring out, okay, how do I get from this point in the story to the next point is essentially this. I feel like it's the same part of her brain having what's all the rules? Where's everybody at? What does the chessboard look like? Okay, now how do I move forward?
I was going to say whenever I had a thought and I lost it. What you were saying about. She was putting it together, and it's funny that she doesn't just ask them directly. Like she understands that she does do that. She gets to that. But I thought it was funny in the original part that like she didn't ask them until she realized they couldn't lie. Like she's suspicious. And I think that's one thing as a viewer that you kind of forget is how suspicious you would be if you were in that situation. Like it's like the food with Manusos too, of course it's easy to say on the outside, like, man, they're not that bad. They're not going to poison you. But if you were Manusos, there's real threat. And for her, she doesn't trust them. She doesn't trust what they say, even though they've been completely straightforward. And she hasn't had the distance that we have in between episodes where we can say, you know what, they're actually telling the truth for the most part. We suspect them of being up to no good because they're a hive and they come from this alien technology. But in reality, everything that we've seen tells us that actually, they'll just do whatever she says, including giving her an atomic bomb, because if she gets angry, they lose millions of people or millions of bodies, whatever you want to call them. And so the calculus for them is to say, well, we need to make sure she stays happy. It's not necessarily about making her happy for happiness' sake. It's more about it's a preservation tactic on their end, right? They need, if they want to continue to exist, then they need to be able to keep this person who has the ability to wreck them pretty easily when it comes down. When you think about it, all she has to do is get angry and start screaming at them, and then all of a sudden they're going to freeze up and she can do some real damage. And so that's the part that when it comes to the end that really had my brain spinning a little bit. It's like, what can they do? You know what I mean? Like I said, I don't think things are going to go back to normal, but like, what can they actually do? Because she has a gun to their head, basically, even though they have all the resources and they have way more capability. She has the nuclear option whenever she wants to go to it.
Though they also have basically all of humanity held hostage, because I don't think she wants to yell at them unless it's a that's like the metaphorical A-bomb. She only wants to drop that if absolutely necessary, especially now that there's potentially hope of turning this around. She believes people can be unjoined. So suddenly what she could... Yeah, because now she can't just think of it as I'm killing appendages connected to this hive. I'm killing actual people.
That don't get to come back.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting what you said about things are going to be different after this, because there is that question of how far will they go. If Asimov rule number 3, protect its own existence. We haven't seen them be very aggressive, other than just omitting things. We're not going to tell you that we can be unjoined. We're not going to tell you how. At the end of this episode, I think it's a little bit open to interpretation. Their tears, was that purely sadness? Or was some of that, we're trying to make Carol feel as bad as possible so she'll back off? We haven't seen them do a whole lot to protect their existence, but I have a feeling as Carol gets more aggressive, maybe we'll start to see more. But I don't know if we're there yet, but it's a very interesting question.
That's where I saw the conflict. And if you go back and you watch that scene, it's the first time that they're not all speaking in unison. It's like a really discordant, like they're saying, please, Carol, at different times. And it's almost like they're trying to drown out Zosha maybe from speaking. It was really interesting. It's like bees, like a bunch of bees, like buzzing all at once sort of thing is what it made me think of, how they were coming together. So that conflict, though, of giving Carol what she wants while also trying to protect itself was really interesting. And just one other point that you raised, Gil, is like how we haven't really seen them be aggressive, but I feel like that's been somewhat foreshadowed a little bit. I mean, the fact that I think it's, this is the way I'm reading it, maybe other people see it differently, but that they're absolutely planning to force them to take the cure once they discover it, sort of thing. Like, I think it's going to be against their will, because we know Carol is not going to do it willingly, right? So that's the question of how are they going to force her to join them?
Yeah, I think Zosha made that. I think she said that explicitly.
If you see someone drowning,
was that we're going to figure it out, and you're going to join us whenever that happens. I don't think that's ever. Yeah, I think you're 100% on with that one.
I don't have many theories, but my first reaction to them crying, which I don't think I've seen anyone else talk about, so maybe it's far off. I just thought they were feeling Zosha's pain. I just thought that was just like, because they've never, like, the only time they felt pain, they went into a seizure, or seizures rather. I felt this was the first time they were feeling this kind of pain where they were like conscious, for lack of a better word, and like Zosha is dying. Maybe this is the first time they're feeling one of their appendages being cut off. Like, it's one thing being in a coma and then you lose a finger and you don't know about it. It's another thing to lose a finger and feel all that pain. So that was just kind of like my initial reaction. But there's probably something deeper. People have said maybe like they were sad that like Carol was doing this to them, or that Carol wouldn't just stop and I don't know. There are different theories, but that was just kind of my initial reaction, that they were just feeling Zosha's pain.
One of the things that I saw repeated quite a bit was that people thought that she went into cardiac arrest because the hive did that on purpose so that she wouldn't give up the answer. I don't think there's really much except for just initial suspicion of a hive mind that would make that make sense. Like, I don't think we've seen anything else that would back that up necessarily. Another thing about it is that I think it's a really specific choice to use truth serum as the way to, like, because like I was thinking when I watched the episode, I didn't, when she grabbed the vials, I don't think anyone really knows what those are whenever she picks them up, like if it was I mean, obviously hospitals don't have heroin, but like if it was like, say, fentanyl, like everyone knows what fentanyl is from, if they pick that up, then you say, oh, she's trying to get high. When she picked up this medicine, like you don't know what it is. You have to figure out through context of like what she's trying to do. And it's a very specific thing. And so because of the way it was set up like that, when I was watching the scene, I thought maybe the distress was coming because she couldn't connect to the hive. Like she was losing her connection or her feeling of connection. And so
That's also possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
she
I
was
don't
telling
think
the
there's
weather thing and then kind of lost where she was going. But there's so much happening in her body that it could just be her being loopy,
Yeah, it's funny because like a lot of the posts that I saw about this, they're all prefaced with the idea that everyone thinks that she's having everyone thinks that she's overdosing, but that never even crossed my mind that it was an overdose from the drugs. Like, I would think if it's a barbiturate, I think is what this is, or it's basically a what's the word? It's to knock you out before surgery.
Anesthesia.
Anesthesia, yeah. What I was grabbing for. You would just go to sleep and not wake up. Like you wouldn't have a heart attack. Like I think that's sort of like what all.
If you've just been concussed and had a grenade, anything could happen.
Yeah, that part complicates things. Like she was not healthy whenever she got the dosage. But yeah, like I don't know. Like I don't know why she. I don't know. I don't think we could say definitively why she's crying, but she. They do. This is the first time we've seen them when they aren't happy. So that that's what the part that made me feel sure that this was something different would have to happen, but I just couldn't think of like what they would do because, like I said, that she has a gun to their head of what it is. And yeah, you're all right in saying that she doesn't want to kill people either. We saw that, when after she glitched them out the second time, she asked them on the phone and the next morning, is there something you can give me to make me stop doing this? And they couldn't, but they also have no reason to believe that they could 100% sit back and just ignore her and that she wouldn't cause them problems either.
Yeah, well, I think one other. Sorry, Gil, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You have more limited time than me, so.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we don't really know how they react to the full range of human emotions. Like we've seen what happens when Carol directs her anger at them. They do that seizing catatonic thing that they do. And so, at one point, Carol actually says, "Are you sad because you want to tell me the truth?" And that's how I read it. I took it literally. Like she is, again, it's that conflict of wanting to tell the truth, but being held back from the hive. And I think, Pete, you came up with this really great way of describing what the hive actually does, how they come running towards her like cells trying to repair a wound. And I thought that was a really, really poignant, analogy to what it looks like. They're coming to protect her, to protect the wound from the invading virus, which in this case would be Carol. Right?
Yeah, which is great because that's what they are, is a virus.
Yeah.
So.
Someone in the comments said that they formed a uterus with Carol and Zosha as like twins inside. I can't remember how it looked, so I'll take their word for it.
A sort of coral shape.
Yeah.
I also heard it looks like a key. I don't know. I guess it's like one of those ink blot charts.
Or like a cul-de-sac. Said
in the comments of the post I made about this, someone said they thought it was supposed to be a keyhole, and I hadn't thought of that until.
Is that how a uterus? I'm trying to. I don't know. It's definitely something. That's not just a random shot. I just like my first instinct was like Zosha was like in the Jesus pose, but also I don't know why Zosha would be Jesus.
You can't miss that one.
Especially with like the gown and everything, but I don't know what the symbolism of Zosha being Jesus is.
Yeah, so, I thought that Aaron made some interesting religious connections with Manusos, which was there's definitely some stuff there too.
Is this a Rorschach test? Whatever you see, kind of like
that's what I love about this kind of shot, though, is that there's so many different ways that you could see it. I mean, it looks like an eye as well now that I'm looking at it here, you know, and but that you can't, like the idea of the way that this is set up, like you said, it's not mysteries that you're trying to, it's not a show that you're trying to solve necessarily, but it does, it leaves so much, leaves you thinking about so many different things, which is exactly what I like from my TV shows to do.
I think it's a baby rattle.
Okay.
A baby rattle.
That's what I'm going with. I'll leave it to you guys to figure out the symbolism, though.
Well, someone in the comments said we're fertilizing an ovum, which, going back to this uterus idea, just quickly, the last thing, just something that I've been sort of kicking around. I'm sure other people picked up on this too, but in the ice hotel, Carol notes that she froze her eggs, right? So we know Gilligan doesn't put in details that aren't important to future plot lines and narratives, right? So how are those eggs going to come back into play as like research for studying a cure, either to make her join or undo their joining? Lots of possibilities there, but I won't speculate.
There's also the question of like, how does the hive continue humanity? That's probably like a season 2 question, but like it's like, but like anyway, we can go into like if they're like trying to procreate. Is it now anyway, let's not get into specifics. It's just like what is the hive's idea of like continuing generations, or how do they want to do it? Or like if a child is born already part of the hive, are they like a child born post the virus in last? Like what does that mean if all you know is the hive? Or I don't know. Like
well, I mean,
and part of it.
Like, love is that one of those other things like art that we feel like is specific, or not like unique to us, but something that is something that makes us, even though we have all these terrible faults, that makes us, worth saving, like these kinds of things that are good about us or whatever, and love is one of those things, like that same connection thing, like that doesn't exist in the hive, right? Because
it won't be through love.
What
will not be through love. It would be a science experiment. It would be like 1 + 1 = 2. I think it would be like just like gets it.
Yeah, I think that's the more interesting angle about, because people say, well, I saw a lot of comments on my videos. People saying, well, how do they have, why would they procreate? Well, it's like because it's a biological imperative. Like they need more bodies. So like they don't have to enjoy it. That's the part that's missing, is that they don't have this sense of attraction or love or any of those other things that, like I said, they're just those things, and you can't really define them or describe them. They're just something that you feel, and they make you think, God, I'm happy that I'm alive because I got to experience this, so they don't have any of that.
Well, I feel like there's a big looming question of what is their ultimate purpose. Because you could take it for granted that this is it. Like, we just want humanity to be happy, so we will only do things in as much as it prolongs humanity's existence. So far, we've seen the cleanup process of taking bodies off the streets. We see that they're trying to bring resources together to make things more efficient. They're trying to convert Carol and the others. Is that it? Or is there a fourth thing? Are they building that big satellite? Because I feel like without the answer to that question, it's hard to know if they're procreating, because I think they'll procreate if it's necessary for what that ultimate goal is. Like you said, do we need more Is it going to take a century to build the satellite, and therefore we need a new generation that's coming up that'll be ready to take over when the rest of these appendages wither and die? That's where my mind goes when I think about that question.
Yeah, that's one of the main reasons why you need to do that. I mean, you need new bodies to complete the work.
Yeah, get Carol angry a couple more times, and they'll have to procreate soon enough. Like it's they would need more bodies ASAP.
Yeah, it's a good thing that
some of the other guys might get angry too. Like Kumba hasn't gotten angry, but
it's true. Like it's all on Carol. Like Lakshmi is not necessarily the nicest person in the world. Like, I'm surprised she hasn't killed.
I don't think that's controversial to say.
If by the way, the please Carol thing, if that was a global phenomenon, and like Lakshmi's grandpa, I guess he's dead now, but the rest of her family started going, please Carol, I'm sure she just had the worst day.
she'll be like, "Oh, what has this woman done
Yeah.
again?" Like, it's just gonna be so angry. But I think we had this question on our YouTube episode where someone asked, like, do we think it was worldwide or just? And I mean, logically, it has to be worldwide. And there's been no evidence of them having
Of the crying?
the crying. Like, it's not. Everything seems to have been worldwide so far. Nothing has been like just Albuquerque. So
Yeah, that's
would
what
assume
I assumed that they were all that
they were all crying
everybody,
worldwide.
because they're all the same. She, you
Yeah.
know, she says that out loud a couple of times in this episode, points it out that, you know, she says, when do you get out of the hospital, or when do they let you out of here, and when do you let you out of here? You know,
Yeah.
it's
So I don't think they can pick and choose what is localized and what is international. So I think like everything is international.
Well, but when they have conversation, like when Zosha's giving fun facts, the whole world isn't hearing her give fun facts. Presumably,
that starts to get like to be a bandwidth problem, doesn't it?
But you're right though, that when there are reactions of like when she gets angry, they all react. That is global, so they could be the same here.
Yeah, I think they choose who. Like when Lakshmi's son is talking to Lakshmi, Carol doesn't know that. Like they can choose. Mm-hmm. My head is that like they have whatever 140 million voices in their head, but they just know how to filter it, and then they can put it out per output. That's kind of what, because in my head, when I think you guys discussed it with him last week, but when DHL guy is like giving those answers, I think he's waiting for like the consensus before speaking to her. I think it's like sending things back up, and they're all discussing, do we want to give her an A-bomb? Do we like so he's kind of like giving that back to that's my head canon. I don't think it's been confirmed either way. So I think like each person can kind of speak, and really maybe like 10 people are speaking at a time, because they don't speak to each other. They're only speaking to the uninfected. So yeah, that's kind of the way I see it. Do we want to talk about like Ray Sihon's Emmy reel? That's not even Emmy reel, comedy reel. That's just how I'm calling it, because like I was like, oh, they're just really gonna make that funny. Yes.
I think the best part is when she essentially reacted to herself on screen. She was like, she's so annoying. You're talking about Zosha, and then in person, she's like, right? This is the first time she's had someone to talk to that's on the same page as her.
No one else seeing this, but at the same time, because Ray Sihon is Ray Sihon, and on the official podcast, talk about how they just kind of shut everything in one go. At the same time, she has that period where she breaks down, saying, "I miss you," about Helen, and then Ray's reaction to that is so heartbreaking, where she just kind of just fast forwards through it. It is a powerhouse of like performance of just the full spectrum of comedy and full heartbreak, and like I mean everybody has talked about like why does she have to be so goddamn fuckable, but like the way she says it as well, and Ray's reaction is like, oh wait, we're not allowed to say that out loud. That's an inside thought. Like that's not meant to be an outside voice there.
I think that's such a great example of what makes the show so watchable, is that you'll have these moments, like that moment right there is so funny, but it's also like the climax of the scene of like, yes, the drug works and I can use it for the next step of my plan. There's always these like, the conversation she has with Larry, the biker guy, it's so many things at once. At once, it's a very difficult conversation to have. She's kind of forced into a position where she needs to grave rob again and take these personal thoughts from Helen. So that doesn't feel good. Hearing what Helen really thought of her work doesn't feel good. But at the same time, it's progress and it's teaching her more about the hive. And there is something humorous about the whole conversation. Like, am I as good as Shakespeare? So there's so much emotional content and informational content in these individual moments.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a heartbreaking montage of her watching that video. And she does act it perfectly, right? It's just perfect. And I agree, Gil, like the moment where she's watching herself cry, when she's saying, I miss you, and the way she swallows and blinks rapidly, just perfect acting. But going back to her conversation with Larry, and I don't think she was really surprised about Helen's opinion. I think she pretty much knew. It was just confirmation that they can't lie. That was really what she was testing.
I think there was some surprise. When she asked about her current book, the one that she was working on, there
yeah.
might have been some surprise.
I think that part
Yeah.
might have surprised
The
me,
rest of
yeah.
it, though, I agree. I think I don't think she was. Maybe she's never heard it out
Like
loud. But I
Caro,
think in her heart she knew.
I don't even think she was that surprised because I think in the bar she's like, "You really think Beta Chrysalis is that good?" I don't think she ever really she was not fully on board that.
So she didn't
Helen
believe
thought-
her when she said yes, or she didn't say yes.
She didn't say yes. I think she said. I can't remember what she
I
said.
think
but
people will love it. I think people will love it.
That's what she said.
she didn't say yes.
Which is also a lie compared to what the truth.
Someone
was,
will
I
love
guess.
it. Like
Someone will love
Yeah,
it.
probably
It's the
Moira.
same way some people love Waikaro.
But Carol will love it. She knows that if Carol puts it out, she would love it. So she's not lying, actually. So I do think maybe it's the writer in her and her neurosis, and she expects that somebody is not like maybe you don't really like it as much as you say. But I think there's a reason she asked those questions. She didn't ask, did Helen love me? Because she knows the answer to that. Helen loved her. And that's not like a hard question to answer. But when she asks, did she like Beta Chrysalis? Then it's like, I think I know the answer to this, and this is the question.
I think she had. I think she probably had somebody, that if she really did love it, she would probably be doing X, Y, and Z, and you're not necessarily seeing all those things. So you probably have some alarm bells going off. But I think that the confirmation is still hurts, and probably if nothing else, finding out that she quit that early. She said
that's the harsh one.
That's the harsh one. She only made it to 137.
Yeah. I'm going to revise my opinion. I agree. She probably wasn't surprised because otherwise it wouldn't have really made sense. The whole point is it's a litmus test of are they going to tell me the harsh truth? She might have been surprised the extent of it. Like she didn't even finish the book, but I think you're right that she knew she didn't like the book. Yeah,
100 pages is bad. Come on, Helen, you have to do better.
I would be getting defensive. I'd be like, well, she didn't even finish it. She doesn't even know. She didn't get to the good part.
She didn't get to the good part. Yeah, she didn't wait to the finale.
If you do it like that, of course you're not going to be able to understand it.
Speaking of 137, are any of you familiar with the significance of the number 137 in science fiction in particular, or science?
No,
so I was just curious. I was like, what is 137? Why is this an important number? Because at first I was thinking of the hotel room in The Shining, which is 237 in the movie. It's a different, I think it's 217 in the book. But anyway, I looked it up, and it is the denominator and the fine structure constant in physics, which refers to the strength of the electromagnetic force. And I'm no scientist, but from what I was able to glean off of my very preliminary research on the internet, is it's considered one of the most mysterious constants in the universe. People like Feynman and Pauli were obsessed with it, and it's apparently a number that gets used a lot in science fiction. So it's been used in the X-Files, Doctor Who, Rick and Morty, Fringe. In the three-body problem, I think the virtual world, the civilization is 137.
Oh yeah, that sounds familiar now that you say it. So, I never made any kind of connection to what it was, but they do say that whenever they go into the game or whatever,
we've opened
count.
We've opened a whole 6-7 kind of worms in the chat. I think we should just kind of skip past that. It's we've opened a whole thing in the comment section now.
I just thought it was interesting.
Speaking of hive minds.
33rd prime number.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's derailing over there now.
Sorry,
maybe if we take episodes 1, 3, and 7. Remember they used to do that stuff where if you took a few episodes of Breaking Bad and put the titles together, it would tell you 737 down over ABQ.
Yeah.
They take the titles of episodes 1, 3, and 7. Maybe that'll get us somewhere.
Maybe.
It's. I mean, on one hand, you're like, oh, maybe Courtney is reaching, but on the other hand, it's not true because Courtney, who Vince Gilligan is, and we know that how much attention he's put into all of these things. So that is probably on the money. You're probably very correct in a theory like that. It's just really cool when
I'm not saying it means anything. It just stood out to me, and I thought to look it up, and apparently, yes.
I mean, it's probably not a coincidence. Probably if it's appeared in things like
what about sand fleas? Did you find anything out about sand fleas? Was that what is that what the whiteboard said at the top?
Yeah, it was like sand flea men, and then under her
Yeah.
research to dos, it was like watch documentary on sand mites. That was a
Yeah.
fun pause where you can like.
I think that that's something that I never did look up, but I think that there's probably a reason why she was doing research on that at the time.
Kill Raban this time
Again for real this time.
It's like,
And then
I
under research
think-
to dos, it was like ask Val if it's okay to kill.
Yeah,
the
ask
guy.
Val if it's okay, and it's like no, this is the money. Like just like the woman in the in-person signing said, if her bond doesn't come back, I'm done.
I just love that. I know people have spoken about this, but obviously I haven't podcasted about the show. I love that she's writing her 4th book in the trilogy, and you're just like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
whoa,
The notes are for the 5th.
how big was the bag? Like, how much did they tell her? Like, this is how much we're giving you for the 4th book in the trilogy. It's just elite stuff, really.
So the one thing that we did learn here, I mean, we kind of started talking about how people find her unlikable, and part of the reason why was because we didn't know why she was how she was.
Mhm.
I thought it was pretty smart that, as someone who, the whole idea of the hive mind, who's someone who was closeted, like she was, someone who had to live with a secret. The idea of everything being exposed, that's something that is particularly scary, in that situation. But then here, we learn that she has this conversion camp experience, and that's pretty. That would make her, this would be particularly hard for her more than for everyone else. So I thought that was a very interesting detail.
On the whiteboard, she wrote, "They want to change me."
Yeah.
And on rewatch, knowing her conversion camp backstory, that wording is so potent, because she's not saying they want to make me like them, or she's like, they want to change me, and it's there, it's in the text, it's not subtext. It's just like on rewatch, that wording, like the changing just really just hits harder, and it's just like, oh yeah, this is why she's so against this. Like it has happened to tried to happen to her before, and yeah, it makes so much sense, really.
Yeah, it's I mean, you guys have kind of said it already, but it's a direct parallel of back then. For my sexual orientation or identity, people are telling me that I, in my nature, am wrong, and they know better, and they're trying to make me like them. And now she's going through that on a global scale of the entire world is telling me I'm wrong for the individualism I have and who I want to be. And they're trying to change me into them. So it's definitely a window into, I mean, I don't think I needed, here's why this is upsetting to her, but now you see why it would be especially upsetting and why it would strike such a deep nerve. And I never,
It gives her it makes it so that she can be completely irrationally stubborn against this idea. You know what I mean? Like it just sort of creates a boundary. Like if I was in her situation, I might start to listen to the hive, or I might start to think about how I could make this work. We know Carol will not. You know what I mean? Like she's particularly set up with this thing that is very real, and it happened at a time in your life where that's just like that's about as bad as it could get for someone in her situation
for her entire life. Yeah.
And what I loved in Ray Seahorn's performance and in the dialogue as it was written is that she doesn't, in like a cheesier show, she would have said all this. Like, they tried to change me, now you're doing the same thing. Instead, it was, they smiled just like you, or something along those lines. So it leaves it to you to kind of fill in the blank. And then I think you feel it on a deeper level. And you felt like the pain in her voice when she said it, and the accusatory tone of like, this is how I think of you. Like, you are the villain in this scenario right now. And I thought it was very impactful.
And she's a woman in her late 40s, early 50s who is married to her wife, right? But at the same time, is still kind of closeted in the public space. She's not willing to talk about like her inspiration behind the character for her book. So you can just tell like that thing that happened to her when she, I don't know if she said the age, when she was a teenager.
16,
I think.
16
has just stayed with her this many decades later. And she's not. So yeah, you and I will probably still push back on the Hive if we're in that position, but it explains why her in particular is like really, really not on board the Hive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think that
It's
sort
a
of backstory
non-negotiable.
is necessary to show why someone would be resistant, but it certainly adds color to her character. And I think it also might explain like why she doesn't have anyone else. I know that's a question a lot of people have been asking. Where
Yeah,
is her family? If her family's still around, she's probably estranged from them, right?
Yeah.
Or that could be a scenario there. But yeah, it also just gives context though to what it feels like when there is a collective, the status quo, if you will, trying to enforce their will onto someone and convert them. I mean, because that is essentially what the Hive will try to do to her, convert her to their point of view because they think it's what's superior. So, and I mean, isn't that like what a conversion camp would do as well? We're trying to convert you to our standard of
Mhm.
living, our lifestyle, because it is
Mhm.
superior, right? So who gets to decide what is the correct way to be or to live? And I think the point that the show is making, or that Carol's certainly making, is it's my choice
Mm-hmm.
to live as I want, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a fun way to do that because I mean, I guess the primary driver for, I mean, because we grew up with this idea that we live in a free country and everything is, like individualism is the only thing that there is, right? But like this is an idea that comes from religious groups for the most part, right? I mean, like that's more of a faith thing than anything else. Is that this is an abomination or whatever the idea is, and so it's interesting to think about that, like in this free country, that still seems like something that you can do to a person, and a large part of a large percentage of the population thinks, hey, that's fine. If they don't fit in, force them to change. Like individuality. What do you mean? Not when it comes to that. Like because that makes me uncomfortable or whatever the reason is. So that I like that way that sort of brings that thinking out too. The comment that I put up earlier, someone was saying that they like how when we're talking about the show, we're not talking about politics, and that's, I guess, cool. I mean, like that's true. It's because of everybody's kind of dealing with which is usually the case in sci-fi stories, which is why sci-fi is kind of a fun one of my favorite genres to read, because there's a lot of reading through reading how to apply that to regular times, but you can do that because everyone doesn't get upset about it feeling like you're hurting their feelings about something that's going on in the present.
I would say that this show is talking about politics, just maybe not like Democrat versus Republican politics, but there's a lot of politics here. There's body politics, there's like social politics, economical politics that we're talking about. Yeah, it's not the big headings, but in this discussion, we're talking about consent and
the mayor was in it though.
That's the real mayor of Albuquerque.
Yeah. So I do think it's not maybe the banner of left versus right, but there is a lot of politics in here in this show.
Well, yeah, there is in everything, but that's why I said I think that sci-fi is uniquely fun for that reason, because you can just
100%.
put it in this weird situation that doesn't really exist. It changes the context, and then all of a sudden people don't get as, like I said, their feelings don't get hurt as easily whenever it comes to.
And I feel like you're dealing with kind of more fundamental ideas that then contemporary politics can be drawn from. It's like you said, if you want to, you can talk about the ideas this show is dealing with, individualism versus this collective hive mind, and then it's up to you if you want to then try and apply it to contemporary politics. But the show's not doing that. That's something that you can do if you want to.
Yeah. Someone had, I don't know if that's meant to be a task quote or reference, or like in the chat, people do a great job just tormenting themselves. If that's a coincidental task quote, then that's really good. I have to step away, guys. This was really fun. I do promise that if I'm back for the rest of the season, anytime this, I will stay to the end. But it's been a really long day, so I have to step out.
Yeah, that's
fine.
Great
streaming with you.
Go ahead and give yourself a little plug on the way out. Like you will be back before the end of the season, right?
I hope so. I mean, I hope so. You're the one with the keys. Pete.
Yeah.
I'm just here waiting at the door, knocking on it. So yeah,
And I just want to tell everyone who's watching it's you should everyone who's on today, you should subscribe to their YouTube channels and help. You guys are trying to get your channel going. It's not been around as long. You mostly do podcasts, so it would be great if everyone listening would go over and help you get going there and give you a subscription,
please.
because those things do kind of grow exponentially.
Yeah, they do really help. Popcorn for Dinner podcast on YouTube, on all podcast platforms, wherever you want to kind of do it. I can't remember our Twitter handle, which is not great. I think it's popcorn_dinner.
I'm putting your links in there.
Yeah, Instagram is something, man. There's so many handles to keep track of. But yeah, we will really kind of appreciate anyone who comes over to listen to us. We are doing Pluribus right now, like I said, and then in January, 97 Kingdoms will be back for that. We kind of have like some Game of Thrones experts covering all those shows. We'll be covering industry. I'm sure we'll cover something else during the like race to the Emmys in May, the deadline in May. So I'm sure we'll pick up something else. And we're always busy on the podcast. That's like kind of our burden. And we always kind of end up covering at least one thing that somebody's interested in. So whether it's sci-fi or it's your like quote unquote grounded drama, or we're always covering something that I think you'll be interested in. So yeah, please, this was very fun. I love doing these live streams. I'm sure I'll be back. The chat was great as always. Everyone that agreed with me about Carol not being a bad person and being relatable, yes. Gil and Courtney, was very nice to meet you.
You as well.
I'm glad I could break up or maybe add to the Better Call Saul Breaking Bad collective.
Hive mind is elevated with your presence.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's always good to talk to you. And like I said, I'll be signing everybody up for the second half of the season, I guess soon, because we only have one. We're at the halfway point almost. So,
and it's going to end in the Christmas week, so we need to get our planning in order.
Yeah, I know the episode this week is probably coming out tomorrow or
Tuesday.
They said Wednesday, which usually means the night before, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Some debate over what. I guess we'll find out tomorrow night.
Yeah. I think it's Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. So 9 p.m. Tuesday night. That's kind of what they do. So yeah, because of Thanksgiving. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Chat, thank you. Pete, Gil, Courtney, thank you very much. Somehow I'm leaving before Courtney, and I don't know how that has happened. Here we are. Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.
All right. See ya.
Right.
Yeah. On that note, I'm falling asleep here. Sorry. Pete, it's been great. Thank you so much for having me on. Gil, it was great to chat with you. Everyone, I am Courtney's Reviews on YouTube. I have not posted anything in a couple years, but the Pluribus videos are coming. I am working on them. And for those of you that are on Facebook, if you feel like talking about the show there, I admin a group, the Pluribus official fan group. So if you want to come and chat, join us there too.
Great talking to you again.
Yeah, it was great to talk to you, and I hope you can do it again. And I can't think of anything else. But like whenever I was thinking about this, because we did the podcast together, I found myself saying like, I wonder what Courtney would say about this part, you know what I mean? So we haven't really, we're both pretty busy, so we don't get to do this kind of stuff very often. So it was just, for me, it's a lot of fun to have you back, and hopefully we'll be talking about the show more in the future. And I feel like it's going to have a pretty solid run. Like, I feel like this is just the beginning. So glad to see that you can make it tonight, and hopefully we'll be able to see you again.
Definitely. So I'll definitely come back on, and love chatting about this stuff with you guys. So much fun to be back.
All right. Well, have a good one.
Have a good night.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
And I mean, I think we're probably in a place where we could start to wrap this up anyways. Now that we're past the 2 hour mark, but there's a couple of other things. This this is a interesting quote here. Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive.
Right.
From C.S. Lewis. So,
This is good for you. I'm doing this for you.
Yeah.
And that's the tyranny.
Why do you make me do this? That's always, that's always something good is always happening when you hear that. What great conversation tonight. Appreciate this community. Thanks, Chris Peterson Yeet. Thank you for the $20.
It really does feel like I can't think of another show where there was another show after it that plot-wise is completely unconnected, but it feels like such a continuation. It's almost like there's an anthology series. Better Call Saul was one entry, and now we're on to the next entry because it brought a lot of the behind-the-scenes people back together in the community. Like, us talking here, and it's a lot. Even in my live chat, I'm seeing names I haven't seen since Better Call Saul, like 3 years ago.
Yeah,
it's a really interesting thing to see.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that whenever I was thinking, I was looking at the notes and talking about that idea of, is this just an inversion of the Walter White story? Because I saw people kicking up again with the people liked Walter White, but they don't like Carol. And, that was a choice, you know what I mean? Like they made us like Walter White, like the writing made us like Walter to later pull the rug out and be like, surprise, this guy's a complete monster and you shouldn't like him anymore. Why do you still like him? You know what I mean? I feel like they do that a little bit with Carol. They make her feel rough around the edges. So it's harder to just completely get on board with everything she does. But, I was thinking about, you have Walter. He is the archetype anti-hero. You have Jimmy McGill, who is a guy is bad. Jimmy, we don't know when we watch Better Call Saul, but Saul Goodman is a bad character. He does bad things. He's nobody likes him other than maybe they think he's funny, we know that he's not a good person. He's written that way. And so there we find out that actually it's a little more complicated. He does bad things and he becomes a very bad person, but he's also sort of got, like they described it as, he sort of has this heart of gold and you kind of can't help but be drawn to him a little bit, He has
the plucky underdog attitude.
Yeah, he has this weird charisma that even though you don't agree with what he does, and Kim is kind of revealed to be that towards the end too, right? Like, they're not the exact same flavor, but it's the same kind of situation where, they're not good people. They wouldn't pass the test as far as certain things are concerned, but you like them and you root for them, and that's just the way that it works. So it'll be interesting to see how they again flip this on its head a little bit, Obviously Vince has said going into it that he was tired of the anti-hero. He wanted to write a hero, but reluctant heroes are generally way more interesting than just someone who's heroic all the time and can do
especially if you want them to go through some kind of transformation. You don't want to start them in a place where they're fully well-adjusted and happy. I wonder, for Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, we're very aware that they were writing these not very good characters who are going to do bad things. So there might have been a degree of overcorrecting. Like, we need to work extra hard to get the audience to connect with Walter White, Jimmy McGill.
Yeah.
And then here, there's almost correcting in another direction, where Vince Gilligan talked about how it's easier to make an anti-hero interesting because they can do all these things that a normal person wouldn't do. And so there's a challenge in writing a good character. And so I wonder if there was some correction in the direction of we need to make her flawed.
Yeah, a compelling, interesting. I mean, because you could write a good character. There's tons of stories that are out there, but they're not interesting to us in the way that a lot of these other characters are. So yeah, I think it's an interesting challenge, and I'm curious to see how that will manifest itself, because like I think it was you that brought it up earlier. Like, when's the last time we saw it? We have not seen a person like that in any of our favorite shows. Or maybe it was Bankole that said it, but yeah, it could be really cool.
Yeah, but I'm fascinated by her as a character, and it's such a Vince Gilligan thing where there's just nothing straightforward, and already 4 episodes in, you can have so much conversation about her motivations, not just in terms of her past and why that makes her the way she is today, but even in terms of her current decision making. Like, go back and try to pinpoint what's the moment where she decided, I'm going to stop vegging out and I'm going to start being proactive. You know, when they mention that you can have an atom bomb, that clearly gave her an idea of how much power she has. And so this episode, she starts to get more proactive. Vince Gilligan and the people writing this show, they do such a great job of making not just the story interesting, but the character interesting. So at any given point, you are compelled. You know, either if the plot's ever moving a little bit slow, well, now you're curious about the characters. I'm curious about the guy in Paraguay. It feels so good to be talking about this show again.
It does. It really does. I was really not sure how it would do as far as first seasons are always hard in the current environment with TV. Like, you know, it's really a gamble because not everybody watches everything at the same time anymore, not like they did 10 years ago. Now it's very hit or miss. And, you know, we sort of had this streaming war thing where everyone was throwing money at it, and now that's all dried up. So it's hard to see where people are going to be putting their attention. So there's a gamble involved, and even though it's Vince Gilligan, they're still like, well, are people going to watch this now? I'm sure by the time we get to season 3, season 4, it'll be big. But it's sort of like Better Call Saul, you know, like people watched it in the beginning, and then it sort of went back in the it was there. It was always there, but it wasn't at the forefront of the conversation until you got to about season 5 again. And then all of a sudden everyone was talking about how it was the greatest show because, you know, of what they did with characters and the way that when the payoff started to come, it really felt like something, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's funny. I have some friends, you know, in the real world who loved Breaking Bad. And I talked to a lot of them and I'm like, you watching Pluribus? And they're like, Plura, what? They had no idea what I was talking about. So, I mean, it's weird in streaming, like how do you get the word out, you know, versus back in the day. I mean, I found Breaking Bad because I was watching TV and a commercial came on and I was like, oh, the guy from Malcolm in the Middle is a drug dealer. This looks interesting. Yeah. But apparently this set records on Apple TV, right? So it is finding an audience.
That's the thing though. I mean, not everybody has Apple TV. You know, like for me, I often just look at things kind of like what sounds the best, but for regular people who aren't like watching, like checking the entire spectrum of what's available to see what to watch, you know, like Apple TV is not a given. It hasn't really established itself in that way yet. I mean, I think that they've had some of the best sci-fi shows of recent memory, but the average viewer, do they know that? You know, like I saw my family a couple months back and, you know, they were asking me, what have you been doing? And every show I mentioned, they were like, oh, I heard about that. But, you know, I don't really watch Apple TV, or I don't really, you know, it's just like people don't venture that far, you know, they get captured by different things. Like Netflix captured most of the world. So, you know, if they have something going on, people are more likely to see that. Like if it was on Netflix, more people would know about it for sure. But they would forget about it. It would be a binge and they would forget about it in a weekend too. So
yeah, and that's one thing I'm so happy is that this is being released week to week. Not just because it gives us the opportunity to make content, that's a big part of it, but there is like I think as you get older,
that's the fun thing about TV.
And I think there's a lesson I learned years ago where I spent the entire year, I literally on my desk had a countdown where I'd check off the days and I was counting down until summer vacation. And the anticipation of summer vacation was always way better than the vacation
And the
itself.
actual
Like
thing, yeah.
the moment the bell went off and I left the school, I never felt better. And then I got home and I was like, I guess I'll play video games for the next 3 months.
Yeah.
The week in between episodes is so good. Like right now I'm counting down the days till Tuesday night
Yep.
or Wednesday or Monday, whenever it's going to be. But I love the anticipation.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, that's why I stick with TV, and why it's just whenever it's working, whenever everything falls into place, the accessibility so that you can talk to anybody about it. That's really the part that I like. And maybe that's going away, and maybe that, maybe I made a bad choice not understanding.
It's never going away. People need us, Pete.
Yeah, but you can't get that with the binge. Even if everybody in the world decided to binge it on the same day in the same amount of time, all you really think about is what the end left you with at that point. Yeah. All the other parts that get to that are just there to serve the ending, really. Because if a binging show doesn't have a good ending, then what's the point? Because it's got to hold you until the next 2 years or however long it takes. I mean, TV shows don't come out every year anymore.
Yeah,
not
that's
most
the
of
other
them,
problem. So I was happy to I think they said the writer's room for season 2 is already in place. Like they're working on it. I think that's good. I think it's so dangerous when you take especially if it's like a little disappointing in the end, or it's not super satisfying, a bit of a cliffhanger, and then 3-4 years go by before the next season.
Yeah.
I think that's a problem. So I'm hoping they avoid that here.
Yeah. We'll see. I feel like that. I was nice to hear that they got a 2-season order ahead of time, so that they could really just not have that pressure of like, if we don't do good in the first season, then we have to write to that. We have to write to having something that's really gonna
add Walter White to the finale, quick.
Yeah. It's really Kim Wexler in the finale. She's just for some reason she has lost her memory or whatever. But so I feel like that gives them some takes away a little bit of the pressure. But I feel like they're also, everything seems to be on track. Like I don't know how popular it really is. I feel like the first season will end on something that even if people aren't sticking with it week to week, that they'll come back around. I mean, for me, it's like it has, because it's someone who made some of the other shows I really love. It has that effect of IP, like where people are going to come in and see what this guy does, because some of his, Breaking Bad alone was just so popular that people want to know what the Breaking Bad guy's doing. But it's still completely original. Like we were saying, there's a lot of synergy and a lot of things that feel like we're back at home, with this show. But at the same time, it's completely original to that. Like it doesn't, like, there are like slight connections, but it doesn't need those connections to exist.
It's the have your cake and eat it too thing, where it feels like we're continuing really Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul without sullying the legacy and without just regurgitating. We're getting something new, but it's like you said, it has the effect of IP. I feel like I'm talking about more Better Call Saul, like in the best way possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, people, because I mean, that's the reason why IP is IP, right? Like if you do something that people recognize, they're more likely to watch it. So yeah, I feel like it is really the cake and eat it too, or best of both worlds situation, where you get something that's not connected to, doesn't have all the luggage of when a story has to fit into a larger universe and kind of hit the points that the fans are showing up to see or whatever,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we kind of got through most of what I wanted to talk about. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about specifically that we didn't touch on yet?
I can't think of anything else. I feel like we went through pretty much the whole episode. Didn't do a lot. I'm kind of like you, where I'm not big on like fan theories and speculating. I've seen some interesting ones out there. Like, I forget if I mentioned it already, but she's trapped in her own book, Bitter Chrysalis, until she finishes it, and then she'll be freed. I've seen She's the Queen, and she actually is infected already, but she's in charge and doesn't know it. To be honest, I haven't seen any theories that really resonate with me yet, but I still find them entertaining.
The one that has the one that I've seen a couple of times now is that her name Sturka comes from a character that was in the Twilight Zone. That's something that Vince Gilligan has pointed out himself. As far as I understand it, I didn't go back and watch the episode myself, but as far as I understand it, that's about an alien on Earth. So the idea is that would be that Carol is immune because she's already a part of wherever the hive mind, the source of the hive mind. You know what I mean?
That would be really interesting, but that does feel like one of those left turn twists I wouldn't expect on the show. Like if I were to just try and predict where is this going, it does feel very Twilight Zone-y in its in the plotting. If I was thinking if this were a Twilight Zone episode, I feel like the ending might be that she frees the hive and they all hate her for it. They're like, we were happy in the hive. And you just ruined the planet. You know, you doomed us all. We had world peace and it's gone now.
Yeah, I do wonder because most of these kinds of stories, they need a day of sex, but people don't like that. You know, people never like that in most situations. Like you have to really tread carefully, I think. So, I don't know, but I do know that he said that he has a better idea of where this show ends than his previous outings. So, I just wanted to point out, I saw that in the comments, a lot of people are talking about Slow Horses, and I was binging that with my wife because I saw the first 2 seasons when they came out, and I thought it was all right, but I didn't follow it. And just recently, we just finished up the 5th season. So, for all the people talking about Slow Horses out there, it's a pretty fun watch, I would say.
I haven't seen it, but I've definitely seen this image before when I searched it. So.
Yeah,
there you go. Maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I would like to. I think we're good. I think we can wrap it up. Gil, I hope you'll come back in the second half of the season too.
Definitely will. Yeah.
Trying to think. People should definitely check out your channel. You kind of moved away from TV and are doing movies, but
yeah.
Generally, my people who like TV like movies too. So,
yeah, exactly. If you like the moving image, basically,
that's what I like. I like the moving image. I like what movies can do that TV can't. There's a lot of that. But I do, as much as it's not really cool, I do kind of prefer TV because of the long running character development aspect of it.
I think especially
but at the same time, like some of the coolest things I've ever seen were movies and could only be movies. And as far as cinema is concerned, I mean, there's just, there's just a whole world of great stuff out there. So,
so yeah, movies are good too. And so is TV.
But the moving picture, the moving image is really what it's all about.
That's how we've been talking for a while. We've gotten to the point where we like pictures that move.
Yeah, we like those moving pictures better than the stationary ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely my viewers should check out your videos. You always I can't remember the first time we crossed paths, but it was a long time ago, and I don't watch a lot of YouTube, but I always, whenever I'm going to work with someone or talk to someone, I always check it out, and right away I could tell that you were you had a very good approach that people would definitely warm up to, and you knew what you were talking about, and you weren't just reading wiki articles and things like that. You know what I mean? Like you were putting some real thought into it. And I hooked, I connected with that right away. Like I was definitely, I would tell anyone, if you want to watch stuff about movies, you should definitely check out Gil's channel.
Yeah, appreciate it. And yeah, I feel the same way. I felt like when we first connected, or I found your channel when I was first starting out on YouTube, and I was looking for models of like what kind of channel do I want to be. I looked up.
That's the trip.
Yeah, well, I think I was looking at your channel as like, what can I learn from this? Like, you were my, even though we weren't talking yet, and then eventually we connected. You were sort of like the Yoda to me. You were my guide, and then we started talking, and I feel like definitely a kindred spirit. Just a very like logical approach. You know, connecting all the dots, but never going crazy. Like you said, I'm not against fan theories, but I feel like that you always have a kind of connective tissue with everything. I'm glad we finally found, I don't want to say excuse, but like a reason to reconnect. Something that's important enough to talk about, that it requires us to join forces. Pluribus.
Yeah, I was thinking that when Alien Earth came down, I was thinking maybe there was going to be an opportunity there, but it just didn't work out. They didn't help. They weren't helpful, the Disney people, and I couldn't really put a lot of time aside for it whenever I had Foundation going, because even though I was pretty curious and I enjoyed the show, it's like it's hard to juggle two shows at the same time, especially if you can't see one of them. You can't get an advance look at them when everyone else actually does, and you know their videos are going to come out like right away. It's like, well, how do I fit into this then? That's
the challenging thing. That was partly why I started to move away from the week to week coverage, because I mean, and you do it really well, but it is challenging because you're up against so many people who are releasing at the same time. But then of course over the years you build up an audience of people who are specifically looking to hear your thoughts on something. But yeah, and there's so many different approaches to YouTube, and that's why my channel changed so much over the years. I kept trying different strategies, and I feel like I've finally reached a sort of equilibrium I'm happy with.
Yeah, like I said, I recommend. I think my fans should check it out too, and I think that's a pretty good place to wrap this up on. I'll be back next week at the same time. I'll have another. Next week, I think I have Aaron and Bube from Popcorn for Dinner. So Gil will be back. Courtney will be back. Everyone should be back. So you have to just check out. You have to just come and see who it is, because it's a rotating cast. And I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching. I will talk to you soon.